Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the Biden administration in an immigration case. The administration says it's using prosecutorial discretion when deciding whom to target for deportation. U.S. border officials don't have enough resources to apprehend or deport all unauthorized migrants in the U.S. But Texas and Louisiana had sued, saying border authorities were being blocked from doing their jobs. The justices have turned away their argument, saying the challengers didn't have the standing to sue. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the guest of honor today for a luncheon at the State Department. Last night, he was honored by President Biden at the White House for a state dinner. Sushmita Pathak reports Modi's supporters say his Washington visit is a moment of pride for India.
Indian commentators are noting how far U.S.-India relations have come. The U.S. once imposed sanctions on India. Today, Washington considers New Delhi a critical partner, especially when it comes to countering Beijing's rise. India also welcomes deeper ties with the U.S., but is far from becoming a U.S. ally and maintains a close relationship with Russia.
Sushmita Pathak reporting. Friends and colleagues are remembering the 5 people who died aboard a submersible this week in the North Atlantic Ocean. They were descending to see the Titanic. From Georgia Public Broadcasting, Orlando Montoya reports on one of the lost passengers, French submariner Paul-Henri Nargeolet.
Nargeolet led underwater research for Metro Atlanta-based EM Group. He was considered one of the leading experts in the Titanic and led several expeditions to the underwater wreck. EM Group CEO Jessica Sanders says she's devastated by the loss.
How do you remember someone who's unforgettable? We pause in quiet reflection of his contributions, and then we continue.
The U.S. Coast Guard says the tour's missing submersible imploded near the Titanic's wreckage. Lost along with Nargeolet were the vessel's pilot and 3 other passengers. For NPR News, I'm Orlando Montoya in Atlanta.
Canada has a new law that will require Google and Meta to pay media outlets for news content that they share. Dan Karpinchuk has more.
The Liberal government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the law, the Online News Act, creates an even playing field between online advertising giants and the news industry. It requires Facebook and Google to pay news publishers for news content that appears on their sites if it helps the tech giants make money. Facebook and Google have pushed back, saying they would remove journalism from their platforms. Meta says it will comply with the law by ending news availability on Facebook and Instagram for its Canadian users. The online giant didn't say when, but the law doesn't come into force for 6 months. Canada's Heritage Minister met with Facebook and Google this week, but details of the talks were not disclosed. For NPR News, I'm Dan Karpinchuk in Toronto.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials are down 180 points. It's NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The legal troubles appear to be mounting for a one-time congressional candidate and former state senator Dean Tran. The Globe reports that the FBI searched Tran's Fitchburg home yesterday looking for evidence in connection with an ongoing federal investigation. Tran, a Republican, already faces 6 charges in a separate case related to a 2019 incident in which he allegedly stole a gun from an elderly constituent and then misled investigators about what happened. And the U.S. Coast Guard says the search for the missing Titan submersible is now over. Now that 5 people aboard have likely died in a catastrophic implosion. The sub went missing in the North Atlantic on Sunday. It descended over 12,000 feet to view the wreck of the Titanic. At a press conference in Boston yesterday, Rear Admiral John Mauger says a remotely operated vehicle discovered the tail cone from the Titan sub on the seafloor not far from the Titanic.
The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
And Marjorie and Jared will have more on this momentarily. Mauger offered his condolences to the families of the 5 people aboard the Titan sub and said rescue vessels will remain at the site to collect more information about what happened. In sports, the Red Sox are in Chicago this weekend for a series with the White Sox, where it's 66 degrees in Boston.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing transformative youth and criminal justice reforms.
I'm Henry Santoro, GBH News 89.7.
Welcome to Boston Public Radio. I am Marjorie Egan. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Browdy, Executive Arts Editor here at GBH. Good morning, Jared.
Good morning. Great to be with you again.
We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, as we do every Tuesday and every Friday. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. We want to mention that Andrea Campbell will be with us for Ask the AG next Tuesday here at the Boston Public Library, where if you're in the audience here, you can ask the Attorney General your questions yourself, or you can call us or text us. Anyway, as Henry Santoro was saying, we are going to talk one more day about this story that seems to have transfixed the United States and much of the world, and we finally have an answer to the fate of the 5 explorers aboard the Titan, the submersible that went down to see the Titanic. After 5 days of this being the only story any one of us could think about, it appears that the 5 men on this ship, one of them a very young man, 19 years old, may have all perished in a nanosecond on Sunday. The image we all had in our minds of 5 men trapped alone together at the bottom of the ocean, tapping SOS on the Titan's hull as oxygen levels dropped to 0, seemed extremely unlikely after searchers found debris from the vessel just 1,600 feet away from the Titanic wreckage. It's the only bit of good news out of all this. Experts say the 5 men likely didn't even realize what was happening before it was all over, and they died probably instantaneously. The phone and text lines are open, though, at 877-301-8970 for your thoughts and reactions to this story. The irony of these men perishing by the side of the Titanic, another tragic example of human hubris fueled by wild sums of money. We're going to hear some sound for a minute from the director of the second Titanic movie, James Cameron, who talked about the irony of the captains in both cases on the Titanic that sunk in 1912 and this tragedy this week, both not heeding warnings about icebergs in the case of the Titanic and about the safety of this vehicle in the case of this submersible. And there's also some media analysis, too. There was a lot of real eat the rich kind of a sentiment online coming from Twitter and Reddit and TikTok and all that. And we were, a lot of us, pretty duped by this story, thinking of people waiting to die in the boat. And there's a lot of other horrible things happening in the world. We talked, Jim and I did the other day, about the 700 migrants that were lost trying to get to Italy, but we are focused on this. What is that all about? Anyway, your reactions, whatever they are, to this tragedy, 877-301-8970 is the number to call us or text us at, 877-301-8970. What did you make of it when you heard that they had probably all died instantaneously?
I wasn't completely surprised because a few days ago I had read this piece, and I think I kept going back to a David Pogue from...
Yes, a journalist from CBS.
Yes, exactly.
Who's written down on these underwater vessels before, right?
He had, and he had a lot of observations, and he had a lot of thoughts after, including him going down on in this submarine and getting turned around and not even seeing the Titanic because the coordinates, we know now how they were just basically guided by texts coming from the ship above, so they had nothing within their instrument panel, such as it is basically a video game controller. Mm-hmm. But the way he was talking, I thought the greatest likelihood was that there was some sort of implosion pretty quickly. And I don't think that we were necessarily duped, because I think this story has brought out so much of the very generic parts of human nature. When you have a story that's as dramatic as this, that's tied to another epically dramatic story, the sinking and discovery of the Titanic, and you wonder if these people are sitting at the bottom of the sea, can they be rescued in time? So I think some part of human nature wants hope and survival there. Right. And then we see the darker part that you were just talking about, the TikTok memes and the jokes that have been made, which I just don't understand, especially when we're talking about 5 people and their families who are now mourning them.
Yeah, well, there's a good explanation from the psychiatrist or psychologist that we're going to get into in a second. But I want to start with some sound. I mentioned before James Cameron. He directed the second Titanic, the one with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio that inserted the love story. I don't think that was really part of what went on. Well, maybe there were some love stories in the Titanic, but this was a made-up one. But in any case, he talked about the parallels because, as people may recall, the Titanic was on its maiden voyage. The captain wanted to get there faster than anybody else across the ocean from Liverpool to land in the United States, and he ignored repeated warnings from his crew about going into a field of icebergs, went ahead, full speed ahead, and then, of course, the Titanic hit the iceberg, and you know what happened after that. And we're hearing now, after this tragedy, of many warnings from people within the industry about this particular submersible not being certified. The materials it was made of were not the class.
Carbon fiber.
Yes,
yeah.
not the, and that the repeated submersion of this vehicle is going to cause wear and tear, and they were worried about this exact thing, the imploding of the vessel. So anyway, here's James Cameron, a deep sea explorer, and of course the director of the Titanic. He was talking with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
Got confirmation that there was some kind of loud noise consistent with an implosion event. Then I watched over the ensuing days this whole sort of everybody running around with their hair on fire search, knowing full well that it was futile, hoping against hope that I was wrong, but knowing in my bones that I wasn't. And so it certainly wasn't a surprise today.
And that was one of the more muted comments from him. I was watching him on the network news last night. He was pretty strong in his condemnation of just how irresponsible this company was and this owner and pilot was in going down there, fully aware that they were skirting some of the safety regulations that others do not take for granted.
I also want to mention Cameron was referring to this the United States Navy official who said that their underwater sensors had registered readings consistent with an explosion or implosion shortly after the loss of contact, which is about an hour and 45 minutes after the submersible left the mothership above it. And that information was sent to the incident commander to help narrow down the search. But we didn't learn about it. We didn't know about it. So that's why I think so many people were thinking about, some of us, I know I was, kind of placing myself in how would I feel if I were in this little cramped space with waiting for my oxygen to run out and waiting to die. 877-301-8970. Here is Beth from Cambridge on the line. Thanks for calling, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my call, and it's exactly what you just said. I think that for me is the piece that was the scariest. It was the knowing you were going to die, you were running out of time, and just facing that mortality. And I think that really echoes what folks on the original Titanic were facing as well, knowing that there wasn't hope for you and kind of coming to terms with the end of your life. And I think that was the scariest part psychologically, and it's actually really a relief, I'm sure, for families as well, but to know that probably was not how it ended up happening for them. But I think that's what it taps into, is that idea of facing our own mortality and knowing that we're about to die. Yeah.
Remember, Beth, both in the original Titanic movie, I think Clifton Webb was in that one, and then the later one, the band was playing Nearer My God to Thee on the deck of the Titanic, and people did know that they were probably going to die. And John Jacob Astor, I think at that time he was the richest man in the world, donning his tuxedo, having a cordial, and sitting down there in this grand living room of the Titanic, said we're going to go down as gentlemen. Of course, I don't know if in these days people may recall that women and children were allowed off the boat first. I'm not sure if that would happen in 2023, but then that was how it worked, unless you were some kind of scufflaw that tried to cheat your way off the boat. Remember?
Yes. Well, Jack didn't. He was a very.
That's right. Leonardo DiCaprio was very chivalrous.
Yeah.
Oh, and we should also point out, in terms of warnings, the Titanic didn't have enough lifeboats.
Right.
That was the other real mess, because it was supposed to be unsinkable, right?
No, I think Beth's point is a really good one too, because as much as I said, I suspected after reading that David Pogue piece, and we have a little bit of sound we can share from that in a moment, but I was walking by some of the television cameras. I was visiting friends in the North End the other night, and I was walking by the Coast Guard station, so it made me think, as I'm seeing all of these live shots happen, that we could all be having a great night out the other night, whichever beautiful night that was, one of the rare ones we're having in this alleged summer.
I know.
But here I am, we're all walking around in the sunlight, and to think, how would you consider the end of your life if you're in that situation and not knowing if you're going to be rescued. But here's a little bit from, I keep going back to that insight that David Pogue had. This is from a December CBS report, and he described the jerry-rigged approach to OceanGate's submarines.
I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
We can use these off-the-shelf components. I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
Camper World. Would you go down in a submarine, Marjorie?
No.
Egan? Not that you have $250,000, I'm just assuming, to spend to go explore the Titanic wreckage, but parts from Camper World to go down to that depth?
Well, one of the mysteries to me, and we'll never know, is one of the people on board this boat had gone down to see the Titanic like 35 times, world-class explorer. Did he not know that there were some questions here? I don't know. Anyway, someone texted and said there were many Titanic movies. I'm only aware of 2 of them, so maybe there are more. If somebody else knows more of them, they can tell us about those. Chris from Rhode Island, thank you for calling.
Yeah, hi. I referenced the talk by John Cameron, or the interview with Anderson last night.
Yeah.
And it is a perfect segue to hubris, the unbelievable power of money, and just how inappropriate his comments were in relation to the families of these people. As you pointed out, Marjorie, one of the only silver linings here is perhaps there was instantaneous loss of life. Mm-hmm. And without any firsthand information, this movie director and explorer got on the air to announce that they must have known, because he had it from reliable sources, that there was some noise heard prior to the destruction of the vehicle. I thought it was heartless. I thought it was inhuman, and he should be ashamed of himself.
Well, Chris, there's a lot of criticism of people's reaction to this, and thank you for the call. There's a lot of criticism of people reacting on, as I said before, on Twitter and Instagram. But this woman that was interviewed by, I think it was NBC News, talked about how this is not unusual, that some people, and I'm one of them, find humor need to find humor in tragedy. I can't count the times I've been at a funeral and people are making bad humor jokes, but it's kind of, for some people, and not everybody, it's a way to cope with the tragedy.
It's also coping with the tragedy of someone you know.
Yes, coping with the tragedy of someone you know. But this psychologist pointed out the internet is generally not a warm and fuzzy place, and especially platforms like Twitter don't really have much moderation of content. And she was talking about dark humor as a natural byproduct of this. I was talking this morning about there's a playlist of submersible death songs, basically, that of course we have to go with what's the one from the Titanic?
My Heart Will Go On.
My Heart Will Go On. I mean, we've got Yellow Submarine. We've got all these things that are very in poor taste. And there was a lot of animus toward very, very wealthy people that were not doing this to better the world. They were doing this as this kind of super wealthy tourism. It's like going up in these spaceships, right? Yep. With Elon Musk, or with Richard Branson, the guy from Virgin, is it Virgin Airways? I think that's it, his airplane company. Yep. And of course, Jeff Bezos.
We have there's a piling on that's happening for James Cameron. We have Wayne from Reading says, if James Cameron and the Navy, et cetera, had the acoustic signature of an implosion at the same time as a loss of communication and telemetry, why were millions spent mobilizing a response and additional risks taken, not to mention 72 hours of false hopes to a waiting world? And lots of people are wondering about the expense that's been incurred for all of the rescue efforts and the search efforts here.
Well, the Navy said that with inconclusive evidence, they thought it might have been from this catastrophic failure of the submersible, but they didn't know that for sure, and they said it would have been irresponsible to assume that the people were dead without conducting a very thorough search. So the mission was treated as an ongoing search and rescue, even as the outcome appeared grim, and that seems reasonable to me. Let's go to Patricia in Texas. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
Oh, yes, thank you for taking my call. Whoops, I'm going to turn down the radio. I just had to comment about I'm sorry, I'm out of breath here.
That's okay.
The previous caller, the hubris of people who have all this rich money, who are rich, have all this money, think they're protected from the world. Well, guess what? This time they weren't, and it's analogous to my son and his wife were on the search and rescue team. My daughter-in-law was ahead of it in Jackson, Wyoming, and they'd go up in the mountains, drop from helicopters onto snowfields to dig out avalanche victims where they never should have been. And eventually, once they had to use the helicopter, which is expensive, they started charging them for it. if they lived, and if they didn't, they'd take money out of their estate.
Well, we have that here in New Hampshire, I think, in the White Mountains. If you are an irresponsible climber, irresponsible skier, you do something really stupid, and you cause a tremendous amount of money for taxpayers, for the state to come rescue you through their rescue services, that you're going to have to pay for it too, Patricia. Which, again, what do you think of that, Patricia? You think that's okay? I do.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
I'm furious at these people for risking my son and his wife's life. They had to be lowered out of helicopters into unstable snowfields.
Well, Patricia, we're grateful for people like your family, and thank you for the call. We're grateful to people like them because police officers do that, firefighters do that, EMTs do that, and heaven knows people that go in to rescue people from Mount Everest or even up in New Hampshire, right? That's what they're doing.
Yeah, and some have lost their lives in doing that, and it's not inexpensive. So this is why it's a good example, because when something like this, a policy like this gets put in place, hopefully people will become a little more risk averse because they don't want to shell out the $40,000 or $50,000 it's going to have to come out of their pockets to pay for the helicopter ride out of the mountain that they got stuck on.
You know, we're getting a lot of comparisons between the migrants going down on the boat, 700 going down the boat, and it's true. We didn't have the same amount of coverage, but I find that interesting since we have people coming over the southern border all the time, every day. Some of them dying on the way, and people coming up in those trains and dying on the way. So we don't cover that all the time either, and it's because we don't have a solution to the migrant problem, do we? I mean, we're not going to take, and maybe we should, but we're not going to take all these migrants to the United States of America.
Yeah, Edmund from Providence writes that it's very hypocritical of us to be talking about this. He also says, I bet you will not read this, so yes, we'll own our being hypocritical as well. But again, this is human nature. How many times have we seen this? And people get inured to stories after they hear them over and over again. But to take something like this, something a little bit more different, but much more different, more exceptional in terms of the attention it grabs for people to pay attention. But you can argue now that this has focused attention again on the migrant crisis. And I think if people are reading the news or watching the news over the last week, they're aware how much is happening, especially in Europe right now. After that, those horrible photographs showed up a few years ago crossing into Greece. That didn't change. That didn't end. It's still very much happening. And of course, we know it's happening on our own borders.
Well, I think
so in a weird way, it brings attention.
I think you have to ask yourself, what is your solution to the migrant crisis? Do we open the borders? Or do we keep the borders closed? We have closed borders. So it's a little bit hypocritical of ourselves to be saying, why don't we focus on the migrants? Well, what are we doing about the migrants? We're keeping them out, right?
Right. And what is the U.S. policy?
Exactly.
In Europe, where this is happening.
Exactly. Anyway, 877-301-8970. Seth in Long Island, thank you for calling.
Hi, Seth.
Yeah. Yes, hi. You were talking about bad taste a few minutes ago.
Yes, it's everywhere.
No, but to me, the idea of Titanic tourism is the ultimate bad taste. We know what happened in 1912. What's the purpose behind going down in a submersible to visit a shipwreck? I think it's incredibly disrespectful of the people that died on the Titanic. And I frankly have no sympathy for the people that died. I think we need an international ban on Titanic tourism and stop fetishizing the 1912 tragedy. There's nothing cool or neat about going down to visit a shipwreck. It's just disgusting.
Well, Seth, thank you for that opinion. I think other people would say that they're absolutely fascinated by going to visit shipwrecks. I mean, everyone is different along these lines. You know, if you want to go see a shipwreck, I'm not going to tell you you're horrible person.
And I think all the people who have visited the traveling Titanic exhibitions too, that feature the artifacts from Titanic that have been pulled up from the ocean floor.
But thank you for the call, Seth, as well. You know what we should mention, and if you were born in the 60s or earlier, you will remember the Thresher. I remember it as a little kid, that the Thresher was a submarine that went down, I guess it was 700 miles from the Titanic. Jamie told me this morning. But the only reason the Titanic was even found, when it was found in 1985, was because the government was looking for the Thresher. It was an atomic submarine out of Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and it sank on April 10th, 1963. All 129 people on board were killed, but it was one of two lost nuclear submarines, and the country was afraid that the Russians might get it. And former Navy Commander Robert Ballard said the military offered to fund research for the Titanic if he first found the USS Thresher. And he did.
And in so doing, also found the Titanic.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So we may have, in 1985, we may have found it by now, but I thought that was really interesting, the connection between the Thresher, which transfixed the nation for a long time, too, before we realized that it was too late and the Thresher was gone. Margot from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hi, Margot.
Hi.
Hi.
So I work in human services, and this is the kind of story that I have a really hard time working up any empathy for. Every day I see people struggling on a local level and a worldwide level, and all this money to be spent, not just to actually go on the trip, but then for the search and rescue. And I just think, I'm not saying anyone deserved to die. I'm just saying I don't have a lot of empathy for the story. There's just, I think it's terrible that people spend that kind of money, these billionaires and millionaires, when they could be doing so much more to solve real problems in the world.
Well, you're not alone, Margot. I mean, go online. There's a lot of people who think exactly as you do.
Well, and that's not the overriding tone, I think, of the response here. I think the overriding tone is how much this is telling us about ourselves and how we've all responded and what we're not paying attention to and just kind of where we are in the world in this moment. So it has changed a lot. We have Kevin from Bristol again asking, can we pay attention to the immigrants off the Greek coast rather than the rich idiots, as he calls them? I think a lot of people will be thinking differently now, because to me it's always been kind of a shock that nothing has happened with these rockets that keep going up too.
Yeah.
And they get highly televised, especially when they have people like William Shatner.
Oh my goodness, we have a pigeon here in the library.
We have
flying overhead. Oh,
yeah. It's making quite a stir
the poor
today.
Bird.
It also left us a gift earlier, so be careful where you walk over there, JB.
Yeah. We're going to have someone, we're going to have to get the fire department in here to see if they can help us get rid of the...
It was the saddest thing this morning. I saw it flying around. It kept looking out the window.
It's looking out the window. It can't get out.
Wistfully trying to get to its friends.
But you know the other thing about this Titanic thing? If we had known, an hour and 45 minutes after it went down, it lost communication, and there are some people that think that was a sign of huge trouble. If we had known then, the submersible went down, an hour and 45 minutes after it left the mothership, it imploded. This would have been a one-day story, I think. I think it was not knowing the suspense and people putting themselves in the place of the men inside the boat. Bob from Sudbury, thanks for calling.
Hi. Hello, Marjorie.
Hi.
I was one of the engineers in the group from Woods Hole Oceanographic, the lab that found the Titanic.
Really?
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. First of all, at least the people died quickly, which is good.
Yes.
But two things I want to mention. One of the things, when I saw the game controller that controlled the ship, I worked on the design of some of the control systems, and we used we contacted the company that made the F-16 fighter plane, and our controller was the same type of thing that they used in an F-16 fighter plane. We didn't use game controllers.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to point out is we went out there with a submersible that had been tested. We had the best people in the world. We had a remotely operated vehicle down there to do this, and we were doing a scientific expedition, and it was still dangerous. But we had the best people in the world and tested equipment. The idea of going out, sending tourists out into that type of thing is crazy. Even as good as the equipment we had going out there, we knew how dangerous it was.
So you think this was very irresponsible, Bob?
Yeah, I tourism of this type of tourism out in the open ocean, it's dangerous no matter how you do it, and you've got to take it seriously in the idea of a commercial thing sending tourists out there is really crazy.
So, Bob, and you can answer this. I was quite struck by the fact that this is not regulated when it comes to tourism. This is not regulated at all.
No.
This is how they're able to go to Camper World and scavenge parts to put together a submarine to go to the Titanic. I would imagine in your world that's quite different.
It was. I mean, at the time, they say right now there's 10 vehicles that can go down that deep. At the time we were there, we were the only game in town, and we were pushing the state-of-the-art technology to do this, and we took every precaution, still knowing the dangers. It is very different from what I see in this commercial venture.
Yeah, Bob, thank you very much for the call. We've heard that theme from people like Bob who have expertise in the last couple of days. This is rather an off-color text, but I think it captures the sentiment that other people are expressing here in a more direct way. A texter says, "There is no way I would go on the SS duct tape."
That is true, yeah. But you wonder how much scrutiny they're doing, too. I kept thinking about that.
Yeah.
Did they ask about safety records? Do you typically do that when you do something?
Well, I did wonder about this businessman, the British businessman, originally Pakistani businessman, and his 19-year-old son.
Yeah.
Did they realize the questions about this vessel?
You're probably just making an assumption.
I don't know.
All right, well, we're getting your reaction to the fate of the 5 Titan passengers. The conversation continues in just a moment after a quick break. Stick around, you're listening to Bob.
In Senegal, young people are frustrated by the lack of opportunities available to them. The government, they say, is not helping.
None of them is talking about youth access to healthcare, youth aspiration. None of them is having a youth political plan.
Why Senegalese youth are protesting, that's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and Rockland Trust Bank. Their team is dedicated to bringing the vision of your business to life, providing support and advice tailored to your specific goals. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. And Maine Maritime Museum in Bath, offering daily lighthouse cruises, a working blacksmith shop, docent tours, and 20 acres to explore, including a Victorian shipbuilder's home. MaineMaritimeMuseum.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Brady. We're broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library. This is going to be a quick segment because we overspent our last segment, but we'll take a few more calls and texts about the submersible. I mentioned before there was this psychology professor from Penn State University, Jessica Meyer, who was talking about media reaction to people's seem cold-bloodedness about this whole thing. She said people feel it strongly because we think the people involved in some sense deserved what they got. It's this idea that people are that it's a luxury cruise, and like the Titanic, a luxury cruise that basically risked everything, went too fast, too reckless, at the end became a death sentence for those on it. And these kinds of internet reactions see a parallel story, and it's also a reaction to all these really rich people with SpaceX and Blue Origin, Bezos and Elon Musk and all that kind of stuff, showing, and I think this is really resonates with people, that you can be a billionaire, but even that, all that money does not make you a hero or smart or successful or save your life. So there's some of that too.
As this was unfolding too, I kept thinking about the film that was nominated for Best Picture last year, Triangle of Sadness.
Yes.
That was a take on the rich.
Yes.
Not a dissimilar situation, that sort of relishing, making fun of satire about the rich getting what they deserve is kind of how this is posited. And it felt very similar, and I thought it was an interesting comparison that this film would come out and this year be celebrated this year. At the same time, we're seeing this kind of reaction. We'll try to squeeze in a couple more calls. Let's go to Laura in the car. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay?
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay. I'm a scuba diver, and I used to dive for Discovery Channel, dive with Great White, and other sharks and that kind of stuff for Shark Week.
Oh my goodness.
Now the thing is, when you dive, you have to know about pressure. You know, I mean, there's a science to it that you need to study, and you need to be prepared for the depth that you're going to be in. You know, you don't go visiting 2 miles down in the ocean.
Right.
And why they didn't have special training to understand the physics of it is just beyond me. Because, you know, in order for me to do breath diving, which is usually at depth, I have to go through a lot of training to understand the physics.
Yeah, I think, Laura, I appreciate the call. I think in this case, this guy was an engineer, this gentleman that ran this company, and what he was saying is he was doing, Stockton Rush is his name, he was the CEO, he's one of the people that died. He was trying to do something that was innovative, that was making this submersible from different materials than they usually use. So I think he understood about the pressure. He somehow thought that his innovation was just the bee's knees kind of thing. And other people were saying no, but he wanted to make a lighter vehicle, right?
But just as we were saying before the break, did the father and son know that?
I don't know.
Wasn't it the most fascinating physics lesson this morning? We were both talking about this before the show, reading about this experiment about bringing a styrofoam cup to that depth in the ocean, a styrofoam cup, average cup that you would get in which you would get your coffee. It was the size of a shot glass by the time they got to that depth, because that's what that pressure does. So I think that gives you a very clear understanding of what happens in the reality there.
And there was the analogy between an Empire State Building made out of lead on top of the Titanic. Yeah. So that was the big problem. Obviously, the pressure was too much for the submersible, and it did implode. We're going to move on now, Jared.
All right, well, that is all the time we have for that conversation. Thank you to everyone who called and texted. After a quick break, it's time for Live Music Friday here on BPR at the BPL. Boston Guitar Fest kicks off next week. We'll talk with and listen to the two virtuosos putting it all together. They are Elliot Fisk and Zaira Meneses. All right, they are here next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Everyday people.
Matt knows that I'm afraid of sea creatures, so his gift to me would be scuba lessons.
Personal stories.
So we jump overboard and we begin our descent. Right away, I'm just in a panic, but Matt puts his hand on my shoulder and he lets me know that there's no rush. And sea turtles just drift by this colorful coral, and it's glorious.
Stories from the stage, Sunday night at 7, only on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and the Massachusetts Supplier Diversity Office, helping small and diverse businesses grow by providing SDO certification and tools, including the Supplier Diversity Hub. Learn more at mass.gov/SDO. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, providing resources and tools to help you navigate the college planning process, including customized plans of savings, loans, and guidance. More information at mefa.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Browdy. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. I want to tell you the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be here in the library next Tuesday for our questions and yours. Okay, this is going to be a real treat. Next week, the Elliot Fisk Guitar Academy will host the 18th annual Boston Guitar Festival from Tuesday through Sunday. Some of the world's most renowned classical guitarists will perform for audiences at two venues in Cambridge, the Multicultural Arts Center near Leechmere and the Foundry in Kendall Square. And two of those performers, we heard them rehearsing just a little while ago.
So beautiful, so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. They're now here for Live Music Friday. And conveniently, they also happen to be the co-founders of this festival. Elliot Fisk is a Grammy-nominated guitarist whom the New York Times once described as classical guitar's, quote, fiery missionary to the unconverted. And they also gave rave reviews to the woman standing next to him. That would be Zaira Meneses, as an arresting performer full of colorful touches. You're going to hear them both in just a couple of minutes. But I just want to tell you, if you want to get tickets, go to bostonguitarfest.org. Elliot and Zaire, thank you so much for coming in. So,
Thank you so much for having us. It's such a pleasure.
And you're going to play for us in just a couple of minutes. But just before you do, start with you, Elliot. What is the guitar? Tell us about what the Guitar Festival is.
Well, the Guitar Festival is obviously a celebration of the guitar, but what always interested me the most about the guitar really wasn't just the guitar with all of its magic. As my mentor Segovia said, it's an orchestra seen through the wrong end of a telescope.
Ooh, I love that.
It's a beautiful metaphor from
Yes.
a great poet of the guitar. But I love the fact that the guitar relates to absolutely everything. And I remembered in the early days after 9/11, and fortunately President Bush said, this is not a war against Islam. But the guitar actually is a perfect symbiosis of a bunch of cultures, be it Christian, be it Muslim, be it Judaism, everything. It's kind of humanity's instrument. And at this time in history where we seem to be at each other's throats, I think the message of music is so important. And I look at music as kind of a metaphor for what would be a better world. And in my small area of activity, I try to make a contribution in that way.
So, Yara, let me ask you more about that. I'm quite struck by that because you both have talked about how this is more than performance. Not that performance isn't enough, but how does this answer, your music and the guitar specifically, answer the times that we're in right now?
Well, the classical guitar is such an amazing instrument. I'm sure everybody has one in their homes. I'm sure you have one. And so what happened with the guitar is that it's such a complex also. It seems easy, but it requires a lot of concentration because the way the hands are put it, and then we have all these possibilities with the colors and technique. So what happened with this guitar is that we need, a lot of support, emotional and physical support, because we don't have an orchestra. We are just solo. We can be a soloist, and we can just be on stage. And this is one of the most beautiful instruments. So we kind of like take it on and just do whatever we can, do our best. And this festival is definitely bringing all these people, international classical guitarists. And when Elliot and I were at the kitchen cooking guacamole and inviting students to play at our kitchen, then we decided, 17 years ago, let's just start a festival. Let's have a continuation of this, And why not? And here we are doing this with the best we can.
When I wondered, you just gave a beautiful description of the guitar. But I wonder if in all these different places around the world where the guitar is so popular, where does it fit in the United States? Because I think a lot of people probably wrongly think of folk guitar, electric guitar, rock and roll guitar. Where's classical guitar in this country?
Well, the classical guitar, it really helped us also to bring this part of our brain that concentrates and makes us do a lot of administration work as well. Like we can not only play the classical guitar on stage, we can also do an administration things, which we are. And thanks to our dear publicist, Sue Claire, who helps us doing all this wonderful, wonderful festivity. But so the guitar, I think in the United States, at least for me as a Mexican guitarist, we want to bring the guitar of prices that students can afford to have a degree. This is why we also created an Elliott Fitz Guitar Academy, which is a new nonprofit. So we want to bring basically mix of United States and international, Mexico and Latin America, and also European, ideas to United States.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was going to ask Elliot what he's going to play for us, because we want to hear him. We want to hear both of them together in a minute. But you're going to start, right?
Actually,
Elliot?
she's going to start,
well,
and I'm going to join in.
Well, I want to tell a little prelude of colors,
Then you tell us what you're going to play. I thought you were playing a duet.
That's later.
Yeah, that's later.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with a Paisaje Cubano by Maestro Leo Brauer from Cuba. This gives us a landscape, feeling. And for Boston, that the weather is so cool, it always changes by the minute, So I think this landscape will give us some touch, and then it would be a prelude for Elliot's playing. So he'll play some after me, yeah.
Okay. And while Zaire is getting ready, you can ask your questions, and I interrupted you.
Well, it was following up on Marjorie's point. Elliot, I know you teach all over the world. You speak 5 languages, and it made me wonder in reading that whether the guitar has a different place in each country, each part of the world, or whether it's just you find that it's a truly universal instrument for audiences.
I think what's interesting actually is how little in a way it changes. The guitar speaks to people in a very personal, special way. It's kind of a non-threatening instrument. I view it as a great ambassador for 500 years of Western canon, which I think has so many treasures. Our repertoire goes back to the 1500s. That can't be said of any other instrument that's commonly played. So I was fascinated by the variety of culture, the variety of musical languages, and yet the common element that unites the only race of people on the planet, which is the human race. And music gets us to that place quicker than anything else. And that's another reason, which you know about this show. I mean, you certainly documented lots of stuff here, and I've been a grateful listener for many years.
Thank you.
And so, anyway, that's what we try to do.
Okay, we're going to hear now from Zaira Meneses on the guitar. They're going to come back and talk to us again a little bit more and play one more piece in a couple of minutes. That was absolutely amazing. We want to let you know, if you want to go to the Boston Guitar Fest, you can get tickets, bostonguitarfest.org. It's going to be this weekend. I think it's 18th annual. It's the 18th annual. I forgot to say that. And it's going to be in two places, right?
Yes, they are very cool places in Cambridge, the Foundry and the Multicultural Center. And Elliot is going to be playing on July 1st. I mean, that's an intimate concert that he's going to be playing all this beautiful music. You guys have to come.
Okay, all I could think of is that you have to have the technique of somebody playing the piano to do. I mean, that was really technically incredible.
Yes,
I mean,
it's great.
do you have to do aerobics for your fingers there, or what do you do?
That's a great question.
What's so interesting about the guitar is it's many, many instruments in one, but quite specifically, what's so difficult about the classical guitar is that you have to have a perfect coordination between the two hands. So I would describe it as the right hand is like a harp, and maybe the left hand is like a cello. And you have to have a pinpoint accuracy such that I always say we're like Olympian athletes, but not for 20, 30 years, for 60 years, because we keep going.
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes people wish we wouldn't keep going, but we do tend to keep going. My mentor, Segovia, was playing in public in the age of 94, incredibly.
This is a longevity, instrument. So we recommend to all of you play the guitar, so you're gonna last very long.
You've talked a little bit about sexism in the guitar world, about
Yes.
sexism in the guitar world. Is that because we think guitar players ought to be men?
That's a great question. Well, for me, I didn't have a female image growing up in Mexico. It was all about men, so I felt a little bit intimidated by having the guitar. I said, like, why should I wear a dress, a pants? I don't know. I felt weird, But little by little, so I look at violinists and singers, and I saw those gowns. So yeah, I wear those gowns sometimes, and I love it. It's just fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, something, I was just struck by in this performance is watching you two watch each other, and I felt like you were feeling each other. There was an energy that was going back and forth there, and a huge appreciation for each other's playing that I could see on your faces.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you feel that because sometimes it gets intense in the end.
Well, they are, after all, a married couple, so I think that they have a lot of coordination and compromise. And
Sometimes it works.
Yeah, sometimes. So, communication it's difficult in every, not just in marriage, in workplaces, like communicating and making sure that we are telling this gets a little bit, fiery. We're very passionate about, but we love the instrument. What really put us together is the guitar. We love the classical guitar, and I think, it's just it's so next to our heart. We hug it, and it's just next to us all the time. We travel with it, and yeah, it's a lovely instrument.
And has it always been that way for both of you? Do you remember them? Is there a moment? It's such a kind of a cliche question, but is there a moment where you had this revelation about what the guitar meant?
Well, I could say very quickly in my own case, my only brother had Down's syndrome. So my mother thought a way that we could involve the whole family in doing something would be to have a guitar and sing songs to the guitar. This never happened, but in this way the guitar entered the household when I was 7, and I was kind of teaching myself for months and months, and my mother said, would you like lessons? I said, how is that possible? How could we ever afford lessons? But anyway, I started in that way and went right to the classical guitar, as it so happened.
Let me just quickly follow up, because I think this is so important for people who think they might not be able to afford this or be allowed to pursue it. How did you and your family make it happen?
Well, like all parents, I think my parents wanted the best for my brother and for myself, and we've managed to, find a way to do it. The guitar also is not as pricey. Let's say, violins cost millions, right? The fanciest guitars don't get into those kind of figures, and you can get a very decent guitar for not as much money, and it's so universal. It's so many things, so many languages are automatic in it.
So before you go play for us again, tell us what people are going to see if they go to the Guitar Festival, either one of you.
Yeah, they're going to see a lot of happiness, because we are all very happy about the instrument, so everybody's going to be happy and playing these concerts. So we're going to have from June 27th till July 2nd. Elliot's concert is July 1st, and then Friday we have another concert. We have Jorge Caballero from Peru and Gohar from Armenia. And then we have Nigel North, where they're going to see a lute, a beautiful instrument.
Great lutenist.
Yes,
great lutenist.
That's on Wednesday, and
Elizabethan music.
Right, and then we have competitors too, like young guitarists who are competing. We are calling it the challenge. Sue Claire, thank God, she helped us, to put this together so we can have a good interpretation of what every day means. So then on Tuesday, June 27th, I have a concert with my other colleagues. We teach guitar to all ages. We love teaching, we love playing. So everybody's going to be very happy. Join us, and yeah.
Okay, well, go play for us again. We are speaking to the fabulous Elliot Fisk and Zaria Meneses, and if you want to get tickets and get information about the 18th Annual Guitar Fest, go to bostonguitarfest.org. I forgot to ask them what they are playing, but I think this is a familiar song that we heard before. What is it called?
It's called Fool on the Hill.
Oh, Fool on the Hill. I knew this song. Okay.
Arranged by Leo Brouwer.
We are ready. Fool on the Hill. Elliot Fix, and Zaria Vanessa. Thank you so much. Sue O'Connell is up after the news.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues is up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio. Right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Boston Children's Hospital, ranked among the best children's hospitals in the nation by U.S. News & World Report. Boston Children's, where the world comes for answers. bostonchildrens.org/answers. Art 21's long-running documentary series, Art in the 21st Century, returns to highlight some of the country's most innovative artists as they go big and bold. Don't miss Art in the 21st Century, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
Trusted. Local. News. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters?
Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Amy Held. The Supreme Court has cleared the way for U.S. officials to prioritize the deportation of migrants deemed to be the most dangerous. NPR's Joel Rose reports the Biden administration had argued it doesn't have the resources to target all the people in the country illegally.
So the Biden administration set priorities. It instructed authorities to focus on suspected terrorists, criminals, and recent border crossers, and not to focus on people whose only offense is being illegally present in the U.S.
The justices ruled Louisiana and Texas lacked standing to challenge the guidelines. In the Mediterranean Sea, migrant deaths are at a 6-year high. The UN says it's a persisting humanitarian crisis. Hundreds at least have died this year, likely many more in what the UN calls invisible shipwrecks, with no survivors found following missing boat reports. Increasing scrutiny is centering on the deep-sea exploration industry and its murky regulation. One day after the Coast Guard said a missing submersible imploded not far from the Titanic shipwreck, killing all 5 people on board. Experts had long raised safety concerns about the sub, but the company forged ahead with an emphasis on innovation. President Biden is signing an executive order today aimed at improving access to contraception and family planning services. NPR's Tamara Keith reports it coincides with the first anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
This is Biden's third executive order related to reproductive health care since the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision caused millions of Americans in conservative states to lose access to abortion services. But this order doesn't address abortion and instead is focused on birth control. Jen Klein leads the White House Gender Policy Council.
We're really trying to do 3 separate things, all related to each other in this executive order. The first is increase and expand options, contraceptive options. The second is to lower out-of-pocket costs. And the third is to raise awareness about what options are available.
The order calls for federal agencies to consider ways to make those things happen. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Starbucks workers say staff at 150 stores plan to strike starting today over the company's approach to pride decorations. NPR's Alina Selyuk reports.
Starbucks Workers United, which represents stores that have voted to unionize, last week began sharing stories of workers who said they'd been told not to put up pride decorations or directed to remove existing ones by local company leaders. They offered various reasons. Starbucks responded that its policy had not changed, there was no ban, and that it strongly supported LGBTQ+ workers. The chain did acknowledge that it gives autonomy on store decor to regional managers. The union says the strike begins at the Seattle Roastery. Alina Selyuk, NPR News.
It's NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH Radio Newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren is holding a town hall-style forum at Holyoke Community College on Sunday, and the public is invited to attend. Warren, who is running for re-election in November, is expected to talk about tomorrow's anniversary of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade and her efforts to protect women's health care and reproductive freedom. The event is one of several that she's holding across the state. A group of medical professionals gathered yesterday to review their response to the arrival of 50 migrants in Martha's Vineyard last year, sent north by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. GBH's Sarah Betancourt has more.
Leaders at Martha's Vineyard Hospital said they had no idea what to expect.
but they said the pandemic prepared them for rapid response situations. Claire Seguin is the chief nursing officer at the hospital and said her staff immediately triaged the migrants' medical issues.
And we ended up bringing in 7 or 8 patients through our emergency department that needed real immediate needs that were addressed, thankfully. Some of those were very young children.
The hospital also had emergency credentialing for staff in case they needed extra hands. The event was hosted by the Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association and included speakers talking about how health services are evolving in support of the growing number of migrants coming to Massachusetts. Sarah Betancourt, GBH News, 89.7.
In sports, Red Sox in Chicago this weekend for a series with the White Sox. First game tonight, 8:10. Mostly cloudy, upper 70s today. Weatherman says we are in for a wet weekend.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments' team of specialists offer guidance on investing, retirement income, and Social Security. FisherInvestments.com. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
I'm Henry Santoro, GBH News, 89.7.
Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live as we do every Tuesday and every Friday from the Boston Public Library. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Browdy, who has the day off. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. And we want to let you know that Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, will be with us in the library next Tuesday. You can, for our questions and yours, and if you're here, you can ask her a question yourself. Okay, we are now joined by local woman, Coyote
and
attack.
naturalist. I'm going to catch the pigeon.
Yeah, the pigeon.
I'm going to catch
We have
the
a pigeon flying around here. We feel bad for the
I'm
pigeon.
going to catch the pigeon.
I mean, this could be a doomed pigeon, you know. The pigeon may not make it.
For the people listening, you're holding up oyster crackers.
I have oyster crackers.
Oh, for the pigeon.
And I'm going to catch the pigeon.
Okay.
I'm going to do it with my bare hands.
That would be
ladies
wonderful.
and
Well,
gentlemen.
you survived the coyote attack, and
I did.
And
It
you
was
are
not
our own
an
media
attack,
maven.
it was a pursuit.
Pursuit. Okay, the coyote pursuit. Sue O'Connell.
Well, I've seen that coyote twice now.
You have?
Yes.
Wants to get on TV again.
Well, now I'm out every morning with my camera because if you don't have a video of it, no one believes you.
Right, exactly. So where's your video?
I've been trying to defend myself.
I've been trying. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. A coyote is a celebrity hog, camera hog.
Wait, you're not going to try to catch the pigeon to bring it to the coyote, are you?
Oh, what a good idea.
No, that's not a good idea.
That would be bad.
that would be
Nature
bad.
is only cruel when it happens in a vacuum.
Okay.
Right? When we do it, it's mean.
Sue O'Connell is co-publisher of Bay Windows and South End News, political analyst for NECN and NBC
Very
10
busy.
Boston. Now, before we get any further, I think we've covered about every possible angle from the Titanic.
No, you haven't.
Fact that people, we talked about people are mad that more coverage for them than the migrants. People are mad about the viciousness on Twitter, and people are upset apparently about the stepson of the billionaire
that
died in the Titanic, going after, making passes, kind of off-color passes at this beautiful model online.
Or, pass.
Yeah.
That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, what should we call it? He retweeted...
A solicitation.
A solicitation, yes. Talking about flashing booties and that sort of stuff, while his stepfather could be losing oxygen.
Marjorie, we all grieve in different ways. Okay, some of us grieve by starting fights with Cardi B on Twitter. Some of us grieve by going to an OnlyFans star and asking her to do things and responding.
Okay.
And some of us go to Blink 182 concerts while our stepdad is potentially suffocating on a submersive somewhere.
Yeah.
So we all grieve in different ways.
Maybe he doesn't like his stepdad. Maybe that was kind of the issue there. I don't know. But do you have any brilliant insights into the...
Of course, that's why I get paid the big bucks here for my brilliant insights.
Okay, we're ready.
Listen, I am not angry that all of this attention and money and rescue mission was sent to rescue these individuals. I'm not upset about that at all. I would just say that what if we took everybody, the poor souls at Mass and Cass, and put them all in a submarine and then said we lost it? Would we pay as much attention to them as we should? Like the amount of attention and care that we have given to saving these 5 souls, which we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't. If we spent that amount of money, that amount of care to deal with these issues that are right in front of us every single day, that could be improved if we did that. Now, I know you heard you talking earlier about the border. There were things that you can be concerned about the changing the laws. But we have hundreds of souls
We do.
right up around the corner who are people's brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, who are getting attention, and you can make an argument that things have improved regarding the attention we give. But what if we just sent people and spent all that money on those 300 people who are up there and said, what can we do to save you from this life, understanding that some of them, have choices and things they want to do. So I'm fine. Let's rescue anybody who is out to sea. Let's rescue people from the Mount Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do all that. But let's also say, why aren't we rescuing the people we see every single day and offering them the same help?
That was wonderfully put, Sue O'Connell. Would you like to go on about
ahead.
Blink 182 or Blink
182. I mean,
142,
I don't know
whatever
that
they
I
are?
would choose that as
I don't
my
know.
grieving
I haven't heard of Blink 182 until this tragedy came about.
Oh, really?
No, I'm out of
We're
it.
talking about it because one of the sons,
The stepson.
He went to the
stepson went to the concert while this search was happening. But it is the way of the world, isn't it? We will forever have this conversation about why we pay attention to certain things. Certain things are sexier in a news sense
And I
than anything else.
I heard what you said, Jared. I think you said it. Like this, it's a mystery. I mean, there's no.
But can I just stop and say, I'm not justifying at all that
Right,
we shouldn't
no.
be paying attention to these very, very important issues. We need more attention, but
It's a
you
story.
bang your head against the wall because you think this happens over and over again. It will continue to happen over and over again.
Right, and the idea of the mystery of it and the rescue, the baby in the well, we all recall
Jessica McClure.
and the McClure in the well.
Yeah, transfixed.
We want a happy ending. We get concerned about it, and obviously, there is some science that gets made with this. This is part of it that when rich people want to do things without regulation, they actually forward science because science can't do these things, and because there are regulations and the money that you get. So there will be some advancement that comes, like we know it doesn't work, and I'm not being funny. Like this inventor had come up with this idea that he thought was better. Well, clearly it isn't. So we know that now.
We do know that now.
And we're all with free will. We all can. $250,000 to a billionaire is about what I tip the valet at the Lennox.
Yeah.
So if that's how they want to spend their money, it does go into the economy. That's fine. But I
Here
just
comes
think.
your pigeon.
Oh my God.
I'm ready. Where is it?
It just flew by.
My
Sorry.
pigeon. Now it's my pigeon.
Your pigeon. I thought it was my pigeon until you arrived.
I had a bird in my house a couple of months ago, and we managed to open the door and with a broom kind of gently guide it in the direction of the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you get the pigeon out of here?
I don't know. I'm standing with my Oscar, my cracker.
Is it bad to call the fire department and ask them
I
to
think
come
that might
rescue
be
the
a bit much.
pigeon?
Well, we
what-
could probably call the
What
animal
you could
rescue
do is
league.
get a barrel, right, and then get some books, which I think we have here, and then have the barrel face down
Yeah.
and put the crackers underneath it, and then do a little trail so that the pigeons can follow the trail under the barrel and then pull the rope that you've attached to the barrel so the barrel falls down on top of it.
We call this
and
the-
then take the barrel out without picking it up and free it.
Okay. I've done that with bugs.
Same thing, just
not,
bigger.
not a barrel, but like a container.
I'm not taking neither one of you on Survivor.
I've done that
There you
too.
go.
Oh, wait
I
a
also
minute. I
wanna
didn't
say-
do that. I saw it on a cartoon when I was 7.
There you go.
That's when I saw
I
it.
also want to point out that if any of you are in a submersive with me, and there's me and 4 of you, and there's only a few hours of oxygen left, I'm killing you guys. All right, I'm just letting you know right now.
We'll
It's
be the first
survival
to
of
go.
the fittest, so I'm going to make sure that I get all the oxygen.
Yeah. Okay. I've lost my clip sheet, Jared. You have the clip
That's good
sheet
to
with
know.
with the clips on it. If you don't want to announce the sound, I can announce it. I'm not sure if we have sound for Sue O'Connell or not. Do we have any sound for Sue O'Connell? Well, okay,
No.
then I won't worry about it now. So here's the deal. My two favorite members of Congress, Marjorie Taylor
Oh, boy.
Greene and Lauren Boebert from Colorado, had a little spat, apparently, on the floor of the House, which was recorded on someone's cell phone.
Yep.
Do
so
tell.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert are perhaps some of the worst human beings on the face of the earth. They just happen to be Republicans. Boebert had pushed forward her impeachment papers of Joe Biden. They both want to impeach Joe Biden. And Boebert had wanted to force a vote on the floor. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was upset that she had her own impeachment that she wanted to push forward and was upset that Boebert had pushed forward it without working together. So Greene went over to have words with Boebert, and Boebert accused her of saying things about her behind her back. And then Greene called her a little B word. And
Speaking of when I was 7.
yeah, well, it gets better. And then Greene said that Boebert had copied her impeachment bill.
She stole her papers.
And then
looked
Boberg
over her
said,
shoulder.
I'm not in middle school. I don't copy. And then when the Daily Beast, who reported this and confirmed it, went to Green and said, "Did you really call her a little B word?" Green said, "I did." And they said, "Why?" And she said, "Because she's a little B word." So all of this has been confirmed by the parties. 2 members of Congress are calling each other names on the floor. They're in the same party, and they're actually in the same Freedom Caucus. They're in the very extreme right conservative, and they're fighting over, I don't know if you've seen papers of impeachment. There's not a lot of it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not like there's creative writing involved here. And I have to say, it might be the first thing that, if Boebert actually copied Green's paper, it might be the first thing she ever read.
Could
so
be.
that could be a very exciting
Marjorie Taylor
moment.
Greene spends a lot of time at the gym.
I would not want her
I would
to
not
punch
want
me.
to tangle with her.
And-
I mean, she looks like she could knock you out
And
cold
Boebert
with a right
causes
hook.
with guns all the time.
And
So
that's
the two
right.
of them are not.
Boebert is armed. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene might be armed as well. Is she not? Boebert wanted to take arms into the House.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been a little distracted at the gym. We also know that.
I know.
because she's having the alleged affair.
Who
But who did she trip?
Wasn't it tantric sex? Wasn't that going on?
Well, that's
wasn't
part of the
just
affair.
Sting. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene. That means sex for hours and hours and hours.
That's right. I guess I didn't go into the details on that one.
Well, that's what Sting said. Did he not?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene also tripped people who were trying to walk next to her. She's not a very good. They're not good people.
She tripped people?
Yeah, she was.
I missed that.
Yeah, she was. She
Stuck
was,
on her foot?
when she was being walked in a protester or a lobbyist came up and she just kind of allegedly stuck her foot out and the person tripped. They're not good people. They're not.
No.
They're not good people.
Well, she also followed David Hogue, who's one of the
Right.
survivors of the Parkland.
And harassed him.
This is before she got into Congress. I mean, you scream at someone, some teenager that survived a mass shooting.
She's in middle school. They're both, and I mean no offense to middle schoolers.
And she won by a landslide, did she not?
Yeah.
People
So
love her nonetheless.
These are our elected officials.
Okay, we have
Maybe
another-
they didn't share Skittles or something at the
I don't
congressional
know.
lunch counter.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what this is about.
Well, we have another smackdown, apparently. This one between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg.
Rich people, for the love
I
of
know.
God,
It's
just stay
terrible.
home and
Yeah.
count your money. I
Yeah.
swear to God, if anybody wants to do a GoFundMe for me, if I can walk away with $3 million, I will never say another word.
There
I
you go.
swear to God, I will just go away and sit by my pool and never ever say another word. Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, who are very wealthy and very powerful, have basically started a fight on Twitter, not just a fight of words, but of an actual fight. And Elon Musk has challenged Zuckerberg, who's in charge of Meta, who used to be Facebook, to a cage match.
Cage match.
Okay? And Zuckerberg just said, "Tell me when."
That's
Name
right.
the place. That's what he said. Like he's a Revere kid in Shirley Ave. We would
Well,
eat
he's
Zuckerberg
been
for lunch.
studying jujitsu.
I'm sure.
Mark Zuckerberg has. We don't know it's from the teacher that Giselle Bundchen is supposedly involved with. Remember, she was with a jujitsu teacher.
Yes. Oh, that's right. He also likes to hunt
Much
his-
younger than Tom Brady.
He
as a
likes
matter
to
of
hunt
fact.
his own food in the backyard, Zuckerberg.
That's
like,
right.
with a bow and
That's right.
arrow in order to eat it.
And not only did they say name the place, they named the place.
Right.
We just don't have a date yet.
We don't have a date. So
Where
it
is
looks
the
like
place?
we may actually have a fight between two very wealthy media giants. This is so like how it used to be in the olden days, right? Where, no, it wasn't.
In the Coliseum.
In the Coliseum.
You're talking about.
Oh, the Vegas Octagon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the Ultimate
Yep.
Fighting Championship fights happen.
You know, people keep saying, I think it's a joke. I don't think it's a joke.
It doesn't feel
I
like
don't
one.
think it's a joke at all. I think this is
Even
really...
the pigeon came back to listen to this one.
Right.
Did you notice that?
Oh, my goodness.
I feel bad for
I
it.
do too. I wonder, I think I would root for Zuckerberg over Elon Musk.
I would definitely root for Zuckerberg
in
over
handling
Elon Musk.
Twitter better than Elon
Well,
Musk
you know,
has done
the
it.
part of this too is that Zuckerberg wants to introduce
His
a
own
new
version.
a version of
Yeah.
Twitter. See, it's working.
The pigeon is so fascinated by this.
Yeah.
He wants to introduce his own version of Twitter. So that's what's got Elon Musk. Just go away.
Should we leave him a bowl of water on the floor or something? Do you
No,
think?
you
He must
should-
be
he's gonna come
thirsty.
down here.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this is
I'm sorry.
this
People
is
at
moving
home,
forward.
people who aren't here at the library are unaware of this drama
It's
that
like
we're,
we've never seen a pigeon before.
that
It's very fascinating
we're talking
to us.
about. So let's move on to something that matters a little bit more.
Wait, we're done with that already?
Oh, did you have
You
anything
have
else
something
you'd
to
like to say?
say? What do you wanna say?
I think the pigeon is aiming at me. He's looking down.
Well, you are standing next to where it did aim
Yeah.
with some success
I know.
earlier.
I know. I just washed my hair too. I don't want any accidents here. Okay, so
So anyway, do we think it's going to happen or not? Are we
Yeah, I
taking
do think
bets?
it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be broadcast on Twitter. I think it's going to be some sort of Twitter, Facebook collab. And I actually think Zuckerberg will, even though Elon is big, he's terribly out of shape and smokes a lot of pot. And I think Zuckerberg is really actually quite dedicated to his fitness. You know, he's been made fun of a lot regarding his sailboarding that he was doing with his sunblock on, but he actually is taking his fitness seriously. So
okay, we have a behaviorist, an animal behaviorist, who just sent us a text. This is not going to work now because it's daytime, but this person says what we should do, we'll have to pass this on to the library authorities here, is turn off the lights in the library and open the big door, and the pigeon will fly to the light and go outside. But we can't do that now because it's daytime.
Well, we can't do it even at night. It'll be too bright outside.
Yeah. Okay, maybe that won't work.
We are downtown.
If anybody knows how to get rid of a pigeon in a library that's got, the ceilings are about 25 feet high, it's all windows here, right? So the bird is continually confused because it thinks it's going to be able to get outside and it can't. Please text us and we can pass it. Maybe you should call somebody about this.
We have an hour and 40 minutes to figure this out.
Yeah, we have an hour and 40 minutes because it's very distressing. Okay, so on a much more serious note, attacks on the LGBT community are really going up. We have had twice as many this year as we did in last year's Pride Month. I assume this is because of politics?
Yeah, well, or Nazis.
Or Nazis,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that the difference between the environment now and the environment maybe 10, 15 years ago is it didn't, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't feel like there were these orchestrated attacks by groups around violence. There were random attacks. There were people who were targeted. Of course, none of this is good, but there were random attacks. There were people who were targeted who had moved in neighborhoods. There had been graffiti put on people's. There had been homes. There had been bullying. But what we have right now is this organized strategy of disrupting and attacking LGBTQ people where they gather in things that they do. And of course, the flashpoint for this has become these drag reading hours, these drag brunches, which basically were existing for a few years and no one really seemed to care about it, but they have become amplified as what's wrong with America. And the folks who are, and this is kind of how you know who your enemies are and who your friends are. When you say something is wrong with America and the people who show up to fight it are Nazis and hate groups, then you think you probably might have it misconstrued. So these Nazi groups, these white supremacist groups, and just general right-wing nut jobs are the ones who are showing up.
Scary.
Yeah, and they're showing up armed legally in open carry states.
Yes.
And they are, you talk about traumatizing the children, which they're alleging the drag story hours are doing, but showing up, as a white supremacist at a drag reading hour is really what's traumatizing the kids.
I think the tool they have now is social media. They didn't have this 15 years ago, so now it's easier to rally. It's easier to create this network. It was much harder to do that. You actually had to meet or find these secret methods. Now you can whip up a frenzy in a matter of minutes.
Right, and it's and again, we keep having these discussions about drag and trans issues when it's such a small population of the general population, even of the LGBTQ population, and these are just small, basically innocent events that are happening, and these people have turned it into this political divisive issue with violence, and they're answering it with violence, which is really what's very scary.
When you do see the pictures, as you say, it is very scary. You see the pictures of these guys lined up, and they're mostly men. I've not seen any women. Maybe there have been women, but what I've seen are men in khaki pants. They're like in these uniforms, and most of them have masks on, so, which makes me wonder if what you're doing is so great. Why do you have a mask on?
Well, because now suddenly masks are okay.
Yeah, masks
right?
are okay.
They couldn't wear them to protect us,
and they're lined up,
and
they are in T-shirts, and they look like spending time. They've spent a lot of time at the gym, and there's like 15 or 20. They're really scary.
Let me tell you this too, which I always find so enraging, and it's the same thing about worrying about trans kids participating in sports. These guys showing up at libraries never ever cared about what was in a library before. They probably haven't cracked a book. These people who are showing up at these school committee meetings and arguing about what the curriculum is that their kids are being taught never cared about it before. And probably if they weren't with their shorts all up in a bunch around the alleged critical race theory, which is not being taught to kindergartners, and LGBTQ history being taught, they wouldn't be paying attention to their kids' education at all.
Yeah.
So, it's just this rage that they have around whatever issues they have inside of themselves that makes them think, in the words of Wanda Sykes, when a drag queen actually kills a child with a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, let me know. Until otherwise, go ahead and let these people show up armed, terrorizing children at libraries. I mean, I know that we were talking about the LGBTQ issue of the violence, of being the victim of the violence, but, they're also terrorizing kids around this.
Oh, absolutely. I was very happy that the judge in Arkansas, of all places, we don't think of as a very progressive state, said that this idea that you can deny care to trans kids, can't do it.
Yeah, it's not a political issue.
Well, maybe this goes back to the coverage, the question of coverage we were just having around Titan. We're giving this so much coverage. We're giving so much coverage to this small group, a very small group, who is showing up and getting lots of attention for targeting these groups, when basically the ship has sailed, right? We just saw what happened in Arkansas. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
It's okay.
But same-sex marriage is legal in this country. It has been that way forever. We see it depicted in popular culture. That's always the benchmark, that we have moved forward and we have evolved as a society because it allows for more people to have acceptance. And yet, to some degree, I feel like we're giving these groups permission now, or we're giving them some kind of fuel by continuing to talk about it, because they know the attention they gather whenever they show up and do this. It's not to say that when they show up, they don't traumatize children, but there's this terrible dichotomy right now. And as you say, Sue, it's because they're dealing with something that's deep within them, and for whatever reason, targeting this population makes them feel better about themselves.
Listen, there's two things, and I'll say this forever, that 99.9% of LGBTQ people were raised by straight people, okay?
Well, how about the line from the gay guy that a couple of weeks ago that said, "My parents groomed me to be a heterosexual."
Right. We're all
I love that line.
We're groomed to be heteronormative, gender normative people, usually by straight parents. So if you're worried that one drag queen reading of a Dr. Seuss book is going to turn your kid, look in the mirror, because it's probably your genetic code that's setting it off.
On another issue, should we be calling animal control, the city of Boston, animal control?
I don't know if you know this, but this happens a lot.
Okay, let me tell you something. Yeah, but the idea of this pigeon,
it's breaking your heart.
Well, all we could think about this week, which is why I think this became such a huge media story, was that people were going to slowly run out of oxygen and die, right? And I obviously am not comparing the plight of a pigeon to 5 human beings.
Sorry.
But, the little pigeon could be trapped in here.
There's plenty of food in here, and there's plenty of water,
the food is all, he's not going to go over and crash the Newsfeed Cafe.
I work Faneuil Hall
cheeseburger.
Marketplace in the overnight shift.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the food court was quite the...
So you don't think we should be worried about this
I'm not worried
bird being
about the
trapped
bird.
in here all
No,
weekend?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Heart of stone there, Sue O'Connell.
Well, no, she pledged. It's her conviction coming
I'm
through.
here.
You pledged to
I'm gonna
remedy
catch it.
this. Yeah.
Okay. You could become a bird attack survivor, says Aaron Lakefield. That could be next.
I was not attacked. I was pursued.
You were pursued. That's right. And your poor little dog made it out in time. You wouldn't like it if your little dog was trapped in here all weekend,
No, I
would
would.
you?
Well, I wouldn't. You're right, Marjorie. I have more sympathy for the pigeons.
Would you like it if you were trapped in here all weekend?
I would, actually.
Yeah,
I
would
would
be nice,
really
right?
enjoy being trapped
Catch
in the
up on some
library all
reading
weekend.
Some people do call them rats with wings. I don't think that's very nice.
That's terrible.
I think that is terrible.
Rats get a bad rap.
I think that's what Jim calls them. Rats with wings.
Well.
Okay, Sue O'Connell, Media Maven, thank you very much for stopping
Thanks
by.
for having me.
Sue O'Connell is co-publisher of Bay Windows and the South End News, and she is our very own Media Maven. She's also a political analyst for NECN and NBC 10 Boston. Okay, after a quick break, we're going to talk with folks from the Roxbury International Film Festival. It's on now through July 2nd. It's in its 25th year. We're going to speak with Lisa Simmons, the festival director of Rox Film and a director and producer for one of this year's terrific films. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Oh, I did the out. You were supposed to do the out. I'm sorry. Too late now.
You're taking all my parts.
I'm taking all your parts. That's right. Facebook.com/GBH News. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Chemistry is Kelly Clarkson's first album since her divorce, and she hopes it might help others experiencing heartbreak.
It's like, okay, I went through something that, like, maybe other people, maybe this will make them feel less alone, you know, when they're crying on their floor and their world is a dumpster fire, you know?
I'm Juana Summers, my candid conversation with Kelly Clarkson on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and New England Conservatory's Preparatory School. NEC Prep provides exceptional music education for students of all abilities ages 0 to 18. You can explore options for the summer and fall at necmusic.edu/prep. And Direct Tire and Auto Service. The team members at Direct Tire want to thank all their clients for 48 years of business. Tires, brakes, and complete auto repair. Direct Tire and Auto Service. Not just service, customer service.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Browdy. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. I want to mention that the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell, is going to be here with us on Tuesday at the library for another edition of Ask the Attorney General, when you can ask her your questions and we will ask her ours. Okay, from now through July 2nd, the Roxbury International Film Festival is hosting film screenings, seminars, workshops, script readings, free events online and in person, basically everything anybody could dream of who is a real movie lover. That is a place to see it from now through July 2nd. So right here at the Boston Public Library, we're thrilled to be talking with Festival Director Lisa Simmons, plus two men behind this fabulous, haunting new short film simply called Ye.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. John Ulawale Adekoche. Say it again. Adekoche. My apologies. I've been practicing and I still screwed it up.
Good.
I'm sorry.
You did good.
And Hank,
I'm nervous on the other end of
that's right.
We all want to get it right.
And Hank Shockley composed the instrumental score. Thank you so much. Ye will be playing during a screening of other short films this Sunday, 2:30 at the Museum of Fine Arts. For tickets and information on the whole festival, go to Rox Film Fest. That's just ROX, roxfilmfest.com. Lisa, John, and Hank, thank you very much for coming in and telling us about what's going on there. So, Lisa, I said this film festival was going on for 25 years. So tell us, where was it at year one and where is it now?
In year one, we were at 10 films, and it was called the Dudley Film Festival. And then we had to change our name because there was actually a Dudley Film Festival at Harvard, and we didn't want people to get confused. And year 25, we are at 84 plus films, and over 10 days. I mean, it's really grown. It's really incredible. We're really excited this year because I think we have the largest number of local filmmakers in our festival this year. So it's sort of like going back to full circle like we did in our first year. And so it's amazing. It's incredible storytelling.
And for people diving into it, what's the breadth of film coverage that they'll be able to experience?
So from documentary shorts to documentary features to narrative shorts and narrative features, animation this year. We have some incredible animated and youth films. We have a series of youth films that Mr. Adekoche works at Boston Arts Academy, and his students are unbelievable.
Yes, they are. I've met many of those students over the years.
I mean,
they are
these
fabulous.
youth films are, they could just be mixed into the rest of the festival. They are really beautiful. And then we have acting workshop, and we have Casey Lemons coming to close out the festival this year. So we're really excited about that. We're going to screen Eve's Bayou as a throwback. So there's something for everyone. There's something and short films. We love shorts. We have tons of shorts.
Lisa, you just mentioned local filmmakers, and I think a lot of us that don't know very much about the making of films think you have to go like to Hollywood or certainly New York City. But that's changed, John. I mean, is that a technological change, or why is it easier to be creating films in Boston?
Well, one of the beautiful things is the digital camera.
Yeah.
So the digital camera has changed things a lot for a lot of filmmakers in Boston. I know we used to think about how much it will cost to shoot on film, and then you have to process it, and then you have to have a lab to take it to, and then you have to kind of edit it on this huge, humongous thing. And excuse me, and you no longer have to do that. You got a computer, got a camera, got some microphones. You go out there and try to shoot something.
Which really opens things up, right? For almost anybody that has that creative urge. It's not that expensive to get a camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I call it the democratization of film.
Yeah.
Really, because anyone can go out there and grab a story, and we need people to, because there's so many stories to be told that aren't really told in mainstream media, right?
And Hank, to bring you in, you're a legend. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Grammy nominated. You founded Public Enemy. Speaking of things that everybody can do now with digital technology, everybody samples music and can do sampling. You created sampling. And you can do this all from here, which is extraordinary.
Yes, I think that it makes it great that you can have a computer now, and anybody can just, you can make music from anywhere. So I think that definitely democratized, the process.
And has brought you into filmmaking.
Yes. Well, filmmaking is my love. And when I, got the call from John, and he says, Hank, I'm finished the film. I want you to, to check it. And I said, I want to go. And I immediately dived in and just started putting some ideas together. Sent it back to John, and he loved it. And then we finished the whole thing up in Dolby Atmos.
Great. And you've been involved with some really famous people too. I was reading a list here: Mary Blige, Rick Scott's American Gangster, LL Cool J, Ice Cube. I mean, all these really incredible people.
Yes, I kind of started a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Well, 2013 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, right?
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, very impressive. So, John, tell us about Ye.
Yes. So. Just to give it context, it's a film, an epic film that is like Star Wars or Matrix or Dune, but we just shot 20 minutes of the whole thing. So it's a story about the Ajumosi, which are superhero women who are dedicated to restructuring the mind of people who are oppressed, and this is the origin story of one of those women.
And so before we continue, we should play a clip. Here's a clip from the film Ye, where a suspicious driver is pulled over by police.
You sound just like him. I get that a lot. I'm from Port-au-Prince. You don't sound like you're from Port-au-Prince. I'm from Goa. I've been here for a while. There's a roadblock ahead, okay? Okay. You're gonna have to find another route. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, without context, I think the sound there just gave us every sense of the tone of that film.
I was totally fooled. I thought that the cop was going to pull this guy out of the car and something bad was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, you see the superwoman in the back seat of the car, and the whole focus changes. And she was avenging a tragedy.
Yeah,
right?
so the context for that particular scene is he's been lying throughout the whole drive. And she knows that he is the person that killed her family. And she just wants to confirm that that's the case. And so the cop stops him, and he hears how he's speaking, and he's like, that sounds like somebody that's been in Nigeria before.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm from somewhere else. And so that automatically just told her, I'm going to continue with my journey of how I want revenge, because he's just not. He doesn't want to admit that he's wrong with what he's done.
Mm-hmm. And Hank, as you're looking at this, as you're getting a feel for it, how do you begin to decide? Do you decide, or does it just kind of come forth organically what your soundscape will be, your scoring will be?
Well, I kind of let the film decide, because the idea for me is to give emphasis to what's going on, not to lead it, but just to give that taste of emotion. And I want to grab the audience and bring them closer to the film.
How often do you get it on the first try?
Man, it took me so many tries to get it right, but we finally got it right.
So Lisa Simmons, tell us more about some of the other films. We have the Embrace Boston. That was a big moment up here earlier in the year when the sculpture was unveiled, and it was the embrace between Martin Luther King and Coretta King. You've got something called welcoming the embrace. Tell us
Right.
about
So that was our opening night film actually last night. It was incredible. It was really like a it was really like a love poem to Boston, really Roxbury, Mattapan, Dorchester, and I think that the people watching the film came out of there thinking, I love Boston. See, everyone here it was really impactful for a lot of people. So I'm really excited that film got done. And it's Beyond Measure Productions, who are also part of Beyond Measure, and
Noah Craigwell, Miranda Adekoje, and Darius Sand.
So this is the funny thing. We have like a family affair going on at the festival this year. We've got John and Miranda, who's in the audience here, and then we've got Noah, who did The Embrace, and Yi, and so that's what that's 25 years, this is the way it should be, right? In 25 years, this is the way it should be. We should be going back home for our local filmmakers and supporting our local filmmakers, and it feels really good to be back there. And
Okay, I want to hear about another one, because I think a lot of people can relate to this. The honeymoon.
Oh, the honeymoon was hysterical. I mean, the thing is that and it's all really about changing images, right? And seeing different images of people on screen. And so Africa, we're constantly thinking that we're going to see people in huts and people, this is our image that we get, right,
Correct.
John? And so this film is by a South African filmmaker who wanted to sort of like change that narrative. And so she, and she did it in a way where she has this sisterhood, they come together, one of them gets dumped at the altar, and then they all go to Zanzibar, because that's where she was supposed to go for her honeymoon. And so it's sort of like giving this whole journey of going from South Africa to Zanzibar, that people do that, there's wealth, it's a whole different look at Africa. So that movie is very, very good.
John, Lisa's and her team are doing something really interesting this year, and maybe you've done this before, but I don't quite recall. It is the opportunity to meet the filmmakers at a restaurant.
Yes.
All Black-owned restaurants after the film, which is so great, especially for a film like yours where you want to talk about it. You want to talk about it with other people. Did you see what I saw? How did you interpret this or that? What's that experience like to be directly in contact with your audiences?
Oh, it's excellent. It's excellent to be with the audience and with other filmmakers. Because the filmmakers look at films differently, because they know you suffered through a period of time to get the film to where it is, and the audience are very curious about the process. And so just having all those people together, having a conversation, it's awesome. I just shout out to Lisa for cultivating that over the years. It's phenomenal.
I mean, it is one of the most important things, like coming to a festival as a filmmaker and as an audience member, to have that opportunity and to, sort of breathe afterwards and really connect. And they're going to see each other at other festivals. So it's sort of like, it's a really important opportunity for them.
Correct.
I don't mean to segue from the festival for a second. You also got a big award for this Street Hawker writing a play. So you're doing a lot. And tell us about Street Hawker.
Oh, so Street Hawker is a play. That's funny because it's connected to this somehow.
Yes.
It's also about so are you talking about street soldiers or street hawkers?
Well, the one that was the Lorraine Hansberry playwriting
gotcha. So
award.
Street Hawker is about a woman who is.
You can tell us about both if you want, but you could start with Street Hawker.
It's about a woman who lost her daughter, and she's traveling through this mystical world, and she meets all these mystical animals who are giving her advice because they need to encourage her to live on. And this happened during 9/11, so I kind of looked at 9/11 and looked at the world we were living in and have that as a metaphor for her journey. So it's kind of connected.
They are connected,
Connected.
The thing is that John is right. I mean, we go way back. His film, other films have been at Rock's Film as well. So, I mean, I saw Hank sort of like leaning into, wait, what's that movie? No, I know you were. You're like, that sounds good. He's already got the soundtrack.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah.
How much
Did you see?
Yeah, how much creativity comes out of these sessions too, and especially when you have all of these artists together. How much collaboration? How much prompting is there? It must be very fertile ground for you.
Yes, I look at everything as a challenge, and I look at everything as inspiration. Anytime you go anywhere, like I'm coming right here right now, and I'm in the library. I see everybody is here. I'm getting inspiration from everybody that's in here as well. So so that's.
You know what I wondered too, Jared mentioned that going to the restaurants afterwards, but people that go to the film festival apparently have a chance to ask questions. The audience can be participatory, so they could ask you, John, they could ask you, Hank, they could ask whoever's putting on a production right from the audience.
Yeah, that's a really important part of it. And I think for Rock's Film, we really focus on being a filmmaker festival and trying to make sure that as many filmmakers can come to the festival as possible. And I think this year we have 84 films, and I think there's like 62 filmmakers that are coming here. Yeah. It's really, really important to be able for filmmakers to hear what audiences have to say, or their comments, or just hearing them breathe, hearing them laugh at the right moments. That's really important. So, we work with Mass Art to help get like low-rate dorm rooms so that people can come and stay, because Boston's expensive, and so it helps to bring them in. So yeah, I think that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, we should explain too, or maybe John, you could. What's the importance of festivals? Obviously, audiences get to come and see films, but for the filmmakers, what does it mean? What's the significance of getting into a film festival? Where do you go next? How does it move your career along? How does it move the film along?
It's a great testing ground for your film, because normally that's where you first start showing your film, and that's why the Q&As are important, and it's very important for you to kind of sit in the back and watch people react to your film, because it's different when you're sitting in front of the computer and you're editing the film and you're by yourself and you're showing your friends. But when you have a group of people who you don't know reacting to it, or you thought people should react to a certain part and they didn't, it gives you a lot of information, and if you want to improve it, you can. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it just gives you a lot of encouragement of what to do.
Hank, I also wonder, and John can answer this about making films, but how did this happen for you? Like, a lot of kids are they're really into music, and they're hanging around in their rooms, and they're playing all these music that their parents hate and that kind of thing and stuff. But you turned this into a whole life. Now, how'd this happen?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
The idea for me was I've always been a music lover. I collected records, and I've been collecting records since I was 5 years old. And from that point, I wanted to know more about the process. So I learned pretty much everything there was about the music business, whether being in a record store, working at distribution. I also DJ'd in nightclubs and things of that nature. So I did pretty much a lot of different areas in the music that leads me to, and since I've been a film buff for so many years.
But did you have to go to school or a professional school to learn it, or could you just kind of do this on-the-job learning kind of thing?
I kind of, back then, there was no real schools that were set up except for Berkeley. They were down the street here. But no, pretty much most of the stuff was pretty much done, by yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You learn that on-the-job training, as they say.
Okay. And so what does it mean now when it does literally become institutionalized? And so people go to school now to learn this, great programs like Berkeley.
I love it. I think that because now you get to take all this information and mix it with the educational process, and then you could take this to new levels. I see the kids that are doing stuff now, they're doing stuff that's so amazing with music, with film, with everything. So they're really taking what we've kind of started, and they're doing amazing work with it.
Yeah. And John, how about you? How did you be able to get to make films?
Well, I deliberately went to film school.
You did?
Yeah.
Here in New York?
In California.
Oh, California.
Yeah, and so it was.
And you came back?
Actually, I'm born in St. Paul, Minnesota, so I jumped from Minnesota to California, and then from California to Boston. Don't ask me why, but that's what happened. Okay. So 3 years of film school, and just really working hard on understanding the history of cinema was very important to me, so that I know. There's a saying where you want to ride. I want to ride a bike, but I really want to ride the bike without using my hands. But I have to really learn how to ride the bike first.
Yeah.
And so that's what film school was.
Yeah. So if young people come to the, do you take entries from young people that are just starting out?
Oh, sure.
How does it work?
Absolutely.
If people are listening and think they would love to have a film presented at the Raspberry Film Festival.
Absolutely. A film is a film, whomever is making it. And I think that it's really important to be supporting this younger generation. We've been doing a whole youth screening program probably for the last 15 years or something. There are a number of media arts programs in the Boston Public Schools. So Madison Park, BAA, we were working with. Raw Artworks out in Lynn also has a great film program, and working with their teachers to submit their films to Rox Film and giving them the opportunity to see their film on screen. It's amazing for them to come into like the Museum of Fine Arts and in this space and see their beautiful films up on the big screen. And I think
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
You're at the Arts Academy, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're doing a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yes. So I teach them, and I tell them about Roxbury International Film. But our goal every year is to get as many films into Roxbury Film as we can. That was always the challenge at the beginning of the year. And then we go through our process, and these kids always step up. They always make some very interesting things.
So one last question from me. If people can't make it between now and July 2nd, will they have an opportunity to see these films elsewhere? Will they... It's tough.
Yeah. You got to come to the festival. I mean, that's the thing about independent film festivals, right? Is like they're making cutting edge films. They're like we pride ourselves on being fiercely independent, right? And a lot of them are shorts, and a lot of them, are not necessarily going to be able to get picked up by like a Hulu or something. But we're always working on different distribution avenues and different distribution channels. We bring back films throughout the year. We curate programs. We just curated one for the ICA, so we're hoping to do more of that so that we can, because people ask us that all the time. Like, where can I see that if I can't see it?
But they got to get there then.
Yeah,
all the more reason to get there.
All the more reason.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Jared's going to tell everybody how you can get tickets and what's happening and all that.
Before that, I'll ask Lisa, how many days off do you take after the festival?
None.
Is it none? I will see you in September. You'll tell me about the festival.
Yeah.
I'll probably see you next week. You'll be telling me about the festival. It's nonstop for you. It's tremendous.
And I just want to congratulate. Yi has haunted me since I've seen it. I mean,
thank you.
It's
thank you that you're haunted.
I am.
Well, what's funny about that is like we were trying to figure out where to put it in the festival. So we're like, should we put it in the horror shorts? Should we put it in these shorts? And so it's in the family shorts.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. It was beautifully done. The acting was fantastic, and the music was fantastic.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here. We've been speaking with Lisa Simmons, John Olawale Adekoje, and Hank Shockley. The Roxbury International Film Festival runs now, happening right now through July 2nd. For information and to get tickets, go to roxfilmfest.com. That's roxfilmfest.com. A screening of Yi will take place this Sunday, June 25th at 2:30 at the Museum of Fine Arts. Well, after a quick break, tech authority Andy Anako has thoughts on the new and dizzying, literally, Apple Vision Plus virtual.
A push to ban new prison construction in Massachusetts almost succeeded last year, but was vetoed by then Governor Baker. Now supporters are trying again. I'm Adam Riley. This week on Talking Politics, we look at the case for a ban and size up its problems.
GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
Back to Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live as we do every Tuesday and every Friday from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming, on GBH. Excuse me, can we do that again? We are streaming on youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. And we are joined right now by our tech man, Andy Anatko, our tech guru. You can follow him on Twitter at Anatko. I'm going to spell it for you. It's N as in Nancy, ATKO, at Anatko, Twitter at Anatko. Thank you very much, Andy, for coming in.
Hey.
So let's start with something that I'm a little concerned about as a Comcast customer. Am I going to be paying more, or am I already paying more for the amount of Comcast internet service and broadband I'm using?
Well, you're dealing with a cable company, so don't worry about it. You are definitely paying more than you ought to. So don't get nervous about that. That's been settled. But the kind of interesting news last week is that the chairwoman of the FCC has basically started like raising the battle flags against Comcast and other broadband providers for certain stuff they do. Like it used to be that home internet service was like all you can eat. You pay a certain fee. There are different fees for like getting faster internet or whatever, but that's it. Comcast started saying, oh, gee, we could make more money if we started charging for this like we charge for cell phones, where if you watch too much Netflix, we can charge you more because you went over your data cap. And of course, they made these excuses. Oh, well, gosh, there's such an explosion of people streaming things in HD and HD conferencing. We can't afford to keep giving people unlimited data. And then COVID hit, and they said, you know what? what, we're going to be wonderful. We're going to delete all of our data caps because we are with you in this crisis. And which led a lot of people, finally the FCC commissioner, to say, yeah, we have lots of data about what happened on your networks when you absolutely removed all limits on how much people could use every month. It didn't affect your ability to provide internet service at all, so what the hell? So she's basically saying, when I say they raised the battle flag, she's taken the first steps, which is basically to say, ask the rest of the commissioners to create like a letter of investigation. They're going to start to get information and collect responses from individual people about how data caps have affected them. And the most telling of all is that one of the things that she wants to investigate is, as the chairperson of the FCC, do I have the ability to put a 16-ton weight of hurt on Comcast and other companies if we decide that they shouldn't be charging extra for extra usage of the internet?
And do they?
Unknown. This is one of the problems with the FCC and other regulatory agencies. Sometimes they have a broad portfolio, like the FTC. They have a portfolio that says that, look, if you're empowered by Congress to punish any company that's working fraudulently. And so the FTC chair will say that, hey, you know what? I really hate the way that Google's running its ad business because it's stealing money and data and information from people. I want to be able to, just with a swipe of my pen, force Google to stop that. And then, even if it's something that everybody wants, Congress says, yeah, that's kind of our deal. We don't want you to do that. So sometimes there are cross purposes. So that's why there has to be this kind of détente of the FCC saying, can we simply regulate this because we regulate the internet, or is this something that we're going to have to make sure that you don't want to storm the gates of Comcast and find out that you've got a Nerf rifle. You have to make sure that you have the ability to actually do what you mean to do.
Isn't this in contrast to what the cell phone companies are doing? Haven't the cell phone companies moved in the direction of giving you unlimited data? And I would assume that has something to do with the distributors on the other end who want you to be seeing as much as their content as possible on all of these different devices.
It's the big C word, competition. You have the ability, one of the most consumer-friendly tech things that ever happened, law-wise, was at the, I think it's called the Cell Number Portability Act, which basically says that, hey, if I've had my phone through Verizon for 20 years, and I have a 617 area code. I have a 617. That's how long I've had this account. But if I decide that I want to switch to AT&T or another provider because they're giving me a better rate, I don't have to switch phone numbers. They are legally required to transfer that number over.
That's great.
And so because there isn't just one or two companies, there's like 6, many of whom actually rent cell tower space from Verizon and from AT&T. They can compete on rates, and so basically AT&T knows they're going to lose customers if they don't have really compatible data plans. So that's why competition is so important.
Okay, so too bad Jim isn't here because he's got a thing about watching bugs. He likes to watch beetles and their various activities.
As we're talking about nature, we do have an update, by the way. The library is aware of the pigeon problem.
Good.
Our pigeon taking flight here in the library, and the facilities team is working on it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I haven't seen the pigeon lately.
No, maybe they worked on it.
Maybe they worked on it already. That would be good because there's been pigeon flying around all morning.
Someone must have given it the Wi-Fi password. That's why he was hanging around with people.
Exactly.
But speaking of nature, take it away,
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
Speaking of nature, yeah, this new phone app, iNaturalist, you're very fond of it.
Yeah, because I put
Do you like beetles too?
I like knowing that the thing crawling on my hand can live in peace as opposed to making me want to run away and kill it.
Okay.
It's kind of similar to another app that we talked about last year, a phone app called the Merlin Bird Identifier, which is a good thing to mention because this is that app that was created by the Cornell Bird Lab. It's for both iPhone and Android, just like this iNaturalist app. The Bird app is, if you've ever heard birds and you don't know which they are, you simply launch this app, turn on the microphone, and you will actually see, as it listens to these bird calls, it will start to populate a list with pictures of the types of birds that it's finding. iNaturalist is kind of a similar sort of thing, only for other creepy crawlies and plants and things like that, where it's kind of a social network for people who look at bugs. So what you can do is that you can launch the app and give it permission to give your location, and then basically show me a grid of photos of people have taken of bugs and plants and snakes and fish and things that are kind of in my area. And so you get kind of a good idea of like all the biodiversity that's around you. And also you do find out that, okay, I don't need to worry about that bug. Possums feed on it. It's really good. It's not going to eat me. It's very, very good. And it's not updated quite as quickly, but it's still a fun app to use.
And you said this has been slowing you down.
Yeah, because I take a daily constitutional when I'm not distracted by bright, shiny, flashy objects, and you really, when you have the ability to not say, oh, hey, look, weird bug, or hey, look, interesting flower, but you have the ability to say, gee, I wonder what kind, that flower seems to come up like around this time every year. I wonder what it is, and then you get a name for it.
I've got that app on the flowers already.
Yeah.
Picture this.
Yeah.
And you can take a picture of any flower you see if you're walking around your neighborhood and you think, oh, isn't that gorgeous? I'd love to plant that, or look at that bush, or look at that tree, and you can take a picture and then it will tell you in seconds what the flower is or the tree is. Yep. It's one of the best apps for the springtime going.
And this is exactly what technology, I think, is supposed to do at its ideal. When we talk about these really expensive, incredibly magical AI systems, and Apple doing a $3,500 virtual reality goggle set, that's fun, it's fine, we can talk about it, but when you basically have something in the hands of anybody who has a basic $80 own it for life cell phone, and now they're not just passing by the things that they pass by every day, they're learning about it. That's aspirational about what technology is here to do.
I mean, that is really cool. I mean, if you can look at different bugs or different critters. When they talk about critters, what kind of critters do they mean? Like squirrels?
Not pot stew critters. Basically anything. I settled upon critters because anything that I've seen in this app: skinks, fish, snakes, insects, flying things. Again, it's just fun. Like but if Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes had a cell phone at this point, he would love this app because he'd be just staring at a stream with his phone in one app and his eyes on the water.
So Andy Anako, our tech guru, just a moment ago you mentioned $3,500 virtual reality goggles. Apple, everything they try to do is splashy and big and attention grabbing, but how much attention are they grabbing with new virtual reality goggles that we didn't know we were supposed to have or want?
A lot more attention that the thing deserves. I find this interesting because, have you ever read stories about someone who spent their entire lives digging holes in an island off of Canada because they are convinced there has to be pirate treasure there. And they've got a little bit of information that suggests that, okay, maybe, but they're so determined that if I just keep digging and digging and digging, I will find this jackpot. That's what virtual reality goggles are for the entire tech industry, and it's been like that for 10 or 15 years. None of them have ever figured out a way to explain to people here's how virtual reality goggles, even the $500 ones you can buy these days, here's how this will solve problems for you, make your life easier, create opportunities, let you learn about things. There are also huge physical and physiological problems with developing these things. Realize that virtual reality, the way we think about it in movies, where you've got this goggles and the computer is creating a virtual environment for you, and maybe they're cameras so you can actually overlay what you're actually seeing too. That's a new thing. Researchers and developers have been developing stuff like augmented night vision goggles that are kind of similar, where I'm going to block out all your vision, replace it with these two cameras and these two screens. And for 30 years, they've been trying to solve problems of why is this always giving people headaches? Why do some people are unable to use them for more than 10 minutes without getting nausea? Why is it that almost nobody can use them for more than 2 hours at all? These are problems along the lines of how do we keep astronauts safe on a trip to Mars and back despite all the radiation? You can speculate about how cool it would be, but until you make that breakthrough, it's not going to be a practical thing. So I'll wind up, I'm sorry. But what Apple is doing is they are YOLOing this like they have never done before. The iPhone was a revolutionary product, but remember that in 2006, there were already 830 million cell phones had been sold worldwide, or already tens of millions smartphones have been sold worldwide. The public had already said triumphantly, we love phones, we want them to be smarter and to do things. They also had working things that people did for practical purposes that Apple could look at and say, maybe we can do a better job of this. Apple is just jumping in and saying, we have no solutions to any of this. They gave a big demonstration and a rollout at their developer conference last week, the week before. Very, very show busy, very, very little on actual details. And during that presentation, again, they didn't give me the information that said that we have had the breakthrough that has blown past everybody else. We know something no one else does, and this is why ours is going to be successful. So it's weird.
And also, Facebook or Meta, I guess, had these things before, right?
Yeah, MetaQuest has a MetaQuest. It's a popular line because it does games really well.
It does games really a lot, but they don't cost $3,500, do they?
No, they cost as cheap as like $500. But I should let me get into a parenthetical here. I don't think Apple thinks that they're going to be selling this in iPhone numbers. I think that they know the limits of the technology right now. They feel as though if VR is not going to be a consumer level product in 2024, which is when they're going to be releasing these, maybe it's going to be a thing in 2027, 2028, and 2029. So don't think of this as an iPhone. Think of this as like that Motorola brick phone in the case that you took out of the car, where it's not very good. Not many people will want it unless they have a really important reason why they have to have it. But maybe in 5 years, Apple will be able to build on what they did for this first thing, which is just going to be for developers, for industry members. And when new technology comes up, they'll be able to take advantage of it because they have all this stuff already in place.
So my question is, and you've pointed out that they haven't articulated this, but why are we supposed to ultimately be using or wanting these goggles? Is it just so you can have a more experiential movie viewing experience, or is it to play games, or is it for you'll sit on your sofa and talk to your parents across the country as if they're in the same room with you, so that there is more of a living your life through these goggles experience?
Congratulations, you are as wise as any VR analyst or CEO. These are all questions that are on the table. And one of the reasons why people keep digging for that gold is that there is a lot of potential there. Like, one of the things that you'll be able to do with these is that it's got cameras all around. It does look like a pair of ski goggles. You're completely cut off from the rest of the world. Whatever you see from the people around you is through video cameras that are relaying this stuff, and that's one reason why you get nausea and headaches, by the way. And one of the things that we'll be able to do, though, is actually capture, as you move through a room and through an event, complete 3D stereoscopic data on everything that you're experiencing. So when 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're not just watching flat home movies from your cell phone. If you're wearing a pair of compatible glasses, you can actually have the same 3D, I am present there experience. More than that, this is not something that Apple showed off, but this is something that's definitely possible with all the sensors on it. As you're moving through like the room, like let's say you're just using it to have a chat with friends or using an app, and for some godforsaken reason you're using Microsoft Excel on it. That's one of the apps they showed off, by the way. That's how weird this is. The fact that it's collecting all this information means that I want to be back to where I spent like a Christmas vacation at my parents' house 50 years ago. And it won't just replay the video. Because it was collecting all this 3D data, it can actually rebuild it as a three-dimensional movie set. And so if you want to just now suddenly bend over and like check out, what VHS cassettes do they still have in 2024? That's going to be kind of interesting. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's going to be completely isolating because movies are great. You mentioned movies. Movies are absolutely fantastic. But the problem is, what would you rather have? The most immersive 3D, brilliant video and audio environment to watch the Avatar sequel on the $3,500 state-of-the-art headset, or would you rather watch it on a cheap $500 HD TV on a sofa with 3 or 4 of your friends or family members?
Yeah, it's number 2. And then go to the restaurant that Lisa Simmons and the Roxbury Film Festival has designated for us to all talk about it together.
That's right. We're talking to our tech guru here, Andy Notko. So what's going on at Reddit?
Oh my God. It's such a glorious garbage fire. We're dancing around it. We're enjoying the smells.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're trying to increase the chaos. Okay, oh my God. This is how there is no crisis that the wrong executive at the wrong time can't make into a 10 times bigger problem than it was. Reddit is kind of in active revolt right now. If you know, Reddit is one of the most popular and important sites on the internet. It is communities on every single topic. They're all moderated by volunteers who spend collectively about 500 hours per day striking out 50% of all the content that doesn't meet the community values, creating a tone for civil discourse, all this sort of stuff. And so the CEO, who's also the founder, wants to shape up this company, kind of start making a profit for the first time, make it look good for an IPO that they've kind of put the paperwork in motion for. So he decided that Reddit will continue to be free, but from now on, if you are developing like a phone app that accesses Reddit, that makes Reddit a lot easier to read, a lot easier to use, you're going to have to pay us for the traffic that your app consumes. And that's not a new thing. Twitter actually kind of shut this stuff down to try to make money. But One very popular developer of the best app for Reddit on the iPhone called Apollo, finally, after with 30 days notice, got a bill, or basically got a projection saying that it would cost him $20 million a year to pay these fees. Now, it's a very successful app and it makes him a lot of money, but he has said that I cannot afford to continue to have this app, so I'm going to be terminating it at the end of the month. So all these communities, the people who organize them, again, they're not run by Reddit itself, by volunteers who at some point just said there should be a community about this show on GBH at the BPL. And in 10 minutes' time, you can create a subreddit for it. So all these people came together and said, we want to protest this because we don't think this is a good idea. So they took all of their subreddits down, for about 9,000 of them for 48 hours, where if you went there, you would just see a protest image. So there's really nothing on Reddit. If you did a Google search, sometimes a Google search wouldn't be good because now they can no longer get information off of Reddit. That shows you how valuable the information is. And so here's what a good CEO would do. They would say, you know what? We know that this is going to be a hard pill. We're going to try to communicate more effectively why we don't think we can afford to still give away this kind of access. Reddit is all about community and discussion, so we're looking forward to continuing to engage, and we respect people's rights to protest. And that's what the chief operations officer said 2 days ago. The CEO, however, was acting like a feudal lord, basically like, you serfs, you're people who are developing apps, you're leeching off of our money. Why does our business plan cannot make you millionaires off of our valuable data? They're saying that, even in interviews with The Verge and real journalists who are trying to be helpful, but asking them really good questions, they're saying, I don't think that this is a real problem. I think that I have quotes, but basically his attitude was that all the people who are organizing these protests are just petulant, and they're anti the users, and we should change the rules of people who moderate so that we can kick them out more effectively if we don't like them, because all the users are opposed to this, and it's just a handful of bad apple subredditors who don't like this, on and on and on and on, which has led, this is going to be so worth it, you're going to love this. So a lot of them said, you know what, we're not going to stop after 48 hours, we're going to keep this thing going. And when they were threatened that, well, look, you can't shut this down or else, because that violates the agreement that you have as a user of Reddit, so they said, okay, guess what? r/pics, where it's just a community of really interesting pictures. From now on, the only images you can post are sexy images of John Oliver, the host of Last Week Tonight.
Okay, Andy, we only have seconds left, but how is this going to end?
It's going to end with basically anybody who doesn't come into line being fired off of Reddit, and a lot of the community losing faith in who runs it, and a lot of the best people are going to stop contributing to it and stop editing it. So who knows? Hopefully not as bad as the fire at Twitter, but Reddit is something special, and I hope it gets preserved.
Thank you very much, Andy Ihnatko.
Thanks.
We've been speaking with tech guru Andy Ihnatko. You can follow him on Twitter at Ihnatko. That's IHNATKO. After a quick break earlier this month, some remarkable teenage sleuths over at the Hyde Square Task Force uncovered gross disparities in the price of groceries at Stop and Shop stores in Jamaica and Dedham. They're next with their results. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Chemistry is Kelly Clarkson's first album since her divorce, and she hopes it might help others experiencing heartbreak.
It's like, okay, I went through something that, maybe other people, maybe this will make them feel less alone, when they're crying on their floor and their world is a dumpster fire,
I'm Juana Summers, my candid conversation with Kelly Clarkson on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and the International Fund for Animal Welfare. With less than 340 North Atlantic right whales remaining, IFAW is committed to leading the charge to save them from extinction. To learn more, you can visit rightwhales.org.
And the Massachusetts Supplier Diversity Office, helping small and diverse businesses grow by providing SDO certification and tools, including the Supplier Diversity Hub. Learn more at mass.gov/SDO.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jared Bowen is in for Jim Browdy. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. I've been waiting for this story all day long. Joining us now at the Boston Public Library are these two extraordinary hot ticket teenagers, Eunice Yo-Yo and Derek Medina, and they're part of this now famous Hyde Square task force. They recently became enterprising sleuths when they discovered Stop and Shop charging 18% more for groceries in a largely minority and working class part of Boston, in Jamaica Plain neighborhood, and they compared that to the prices that Stop and Shop was charging for the same items in Dedham, which is a more affluent and more white suburb. And we're going to find out what they found out in just a second. We're also got Ken Tangvik with us. He's the senior manager in organizing and engagement at the Hyde Square Task.
On a regular basis, we avoided any products that were on sale so that we could remain consistent and fair at both locations. And we also avoided produce because the price of produce fluctuates throughout the week.
Yeah.
So they purchased all of these products, got the total, and then another team of youth went to Stop and Shop in Dedham and bought the exact same products, and the exact same brand and everything, and found that the Stop and Shop in Dedham had a lower total than the Stop and Shop in Jamaica Plain. And when we, the youth organizers at Hyde Square Task Force, found out about this, we were appalled and we were like, we have to do something. So we got together, we did more thorough research about Stop and Shop and their whole brand, and this is where we are now.
So Derek, let's bring you into this. You have this information. What did it reveal to you, and how surprised were you to find what you found?
This information, when we found out about this 18% higher increase, it definitely did surprise us to see that there was a lot of money difference in between all of this. So it was a huge shock to us to find this out.
And then you have this information, and what did you want to do with it?
We wanted to develop more research and try to find out more information, get our facts straight, and maybe try to find out more information about why this is happening, maybe theories or whatnot.
Well, what they found too is that when this added up, I think it was if you shopped, there was a difference of, was it $2,000 between
$2,808.
$2,808, and as you were quoted in the Globe as saying, that's a lot of money. It's money for your bills. It's money you could put toward college tuition, or just building generational wealth, or going on a trip, whatever you wanted to do.
Exactly.
So Ken, you organized this whole thing. I mean, is this something you had planned yourself, or where was your involvement here?
No, as Eunice said, the eighth graders were realizing that when they went into local stores to buy things, that they were paying more. When inflation was roaring, and they requested that we learn about inflation. And so I had them do some focused research on how is inflation affecting urban communities. And one of them came up with this article, and so we started discussing it. And then it was like, let's put it to the test. Let's see if it's actually this way. And yeah, we were very surprised. And the eighth graders, they thought it was interesting, but they're not yet activists. And so I brought it to our more activist group, we call the community
and you're
organizers.
both 15, right?
Yes.
You're both 15. Okay, that's still pretty young.
And they all got outraged. One of our activists, who's actually on a learning trip to Puerto Rico this week, lives right behind the Stop and Shop, Danny Vargas, and he was very upset. He says, I've been shopping in this Jamaica Plain store for 12 years with my parents, and he was one of the ones who went over to Dedham, and he was walking by the cereal section, and he said, I can't believe this. I've been buying cereal with my parents my whole life, and it's $2 cheaper here.
So, Eunice, you have the information, and you're fair analysts here. You're thinking, well, maybe it's more expensive to lease the Stop and Shop realty store in Jamaica Plain. Maybe there are other reasons that this would be more expensive. What happened when you reached out to Stop and Shop to find out more?
When we reached out to Stop and Shop, they declined to talk to us or give us any sort of information as to why they priced their products this way. We were kind of just shut down initially. They didn't want anything to do with us. They just kind of wished us good luck on our project. We were very dismissive. It was very hard to get in contact with them in the first place, which was kind of, not a big shocker. We kind of expected that from a big corporate organization, but it was also a blow because this issue has really a big weight on the community that it's impacting. And to be so dismissive was just kind of unfair.
And then flash forward a little bit,
Yeah,
and the Boston
stories
Globe
in the
starts to talk
Globe.
about this. Now
Yes.
you're here on GBH radio talking about this right now. Is Stop and Shop still not answering you?
Currently, they have reached out to us after our media field day, and we are scheduled to meet with them sometime soon. And we are very excited to just hear them out and see what they have to say about why they price their products this way, and if there is anything that we can do to help the community and make positive change for them.
Now, I don't want to ask you what questions you'll ask them because we don't want to tip your hand
That's right.
to Stop and Shop, but I assume you have a fully prepared dossier at this point, a lot of questions that you want to ask
Oh, yeah,
them.
a lot of questions.
You know, it was interesting, some of the things that were there that you compared. The Bubba's turkey burgers, $11.49 compared to $9.49. A quart of Brigham's vanilla ice cream, 90 cents more in Jamaica Plain. Elio's Pizza was the same. I don't know what's going on with Elio's Pizza. My kids ate a lot of Elio's Pizza when they were young. There's a backstory to this whole thing involving Hyde Park. And Ken, maybe you could talk about what happened a while back with the TD Garden.
Yeah, Hyde Square Task Force was formed about 30 years ago out of a community organizing initiative. And so community organizing has been part of our DNA for decades. And so there's been several major victories that our youth have spearheaded over this time. And the one you're referring to was about 6 years ago when we found out that the owners of TD Garden, a neighborhood person, a longtime neighborhood person, tipped us off, and we decided to take it a step further. And we found out that TD Garden had agreed to do 3 fundraisers a year to raise money for youth programs across the state of Massachusetts. The reason they did that is because the state gave them incredible infrastructure deals to build the new TD Garden. They got new sidewalks, streets, all sorts of support, and so that was the agreement. And we found out that they had not had one fundraiser over 20 years. So that's 60 fundraisers that they had never had. And so we brought that to the attention. It was somewhat similar in a way. We delivered a letter to TD Garden, and they were very dismissive and wouldn't meet with us. And we went to the Globe, and my phone did not stop ringing the day that the Globe article came out. The governor's office was calling. The TD Garden was calling. They wanted to meet immediately. And interesting that Stop and Shop, reached out to us. We reached out to them in early April, and we just heard back last week. And they also know that we've been meeting with the Attorney General. The Attorney General's office called us, and we've had a couple meetings with them, and they want to stay very much involved in this issue.
Yeah, Derek, I'm wondering what more you may have learned. That's the other thing that happens when a story like this breaks, is suddenly more people come forward with their stories. You suddenly have other avenues to examine what's happening in a supermarket store and what their policies are. So what more have you begun to gather? What more have people told you since you had your big media day?
More or less, really. It's just more like during my school days, most people, they came up to me and talked to me about this and whatnot. So more or less, I just explained it to them as well, so they could also keep up with this as well, because we also have an important thing to do, which is to get community outreach. So it's more or less more important that way. So whenever they came out to me, like my parents or people in school, I just mostly told them about the project.
And how shocked have they been?
Very shocked, really. My parents, more or less, were that were shocked because, after they learned this, they were a little mad because, why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
But what they did was that we decided to now go by public transportation. We decided to go to a place that is a little further away, but within our affordable reach, which is like American Food Basket, because we couldn't shop at Stop and Shop anymore because of these prices. So we went there now, and then we decided to keep going there until a solution was brought up to this.
What did you think, Eunice? Did you get ticked off, or did you think that this was discriminatory, or did you think it was just trying to shaft people who may have more difficulty paying the bills than people in Dedham? What did you think?
Well, I thought it was I was appalled. I was very shocked to find out that a lower income neighborhood his median household income is 4 times less than it is in Dedham, is paying over $2,000 more per year in a local location to get their groceries. I think that it's inequity, and companies like Stop and Shop, they need to be more transparent about how they're being equitable, especially in local communities like this, where groceries and food equity and being well nourished with good nutrition is such an important thing.
Did they have the fundraisers, by the way? How many have they had since the fundraiser brouhaha at TD Garden?
It's very hard to track it. I think they had some very small scale. See, we went to Attorney General Maura Healey at the time, and she was geared up to go after them. And then she came back to us and said, you know, their lawyers were very, very smart the way they set this up, because they didn't put a number to the amount that they were supposed to raise. So I think that each year they are doing some small scale fundraisers. And but I don't, you know, you could imagine if you own the TD Garden, the star power that you could bring there to do a real huge benefit, even once a year for youth programs across the state. You can imagine if they really wanted to, what they could do.
Get some athletes in there, right?
Yeah, there's all sorts of resources, but they're very small scale. I don't know how much they've raised, but it's not, I don't think it's nearly as much as they could.
So Eunice, typically, right about now, you'd have a lot of your day life back to you because you're out of school. You'd have a lot more free time. But seriously, how are you going to spend your summer now that you have meetings with Stop and Shop lined up, meeting with the Attorney General lined up, and I'm sure you have ideas about what you want to do with this going forward?
Oh yeah. Anytime that I have the opportunity to advocate or reach out to anybody about this issue, I will be here and I will advocate and I will talk about this issue. Our team of youth organizers is ready and prepared to set the time aside and organize and come up with a solution to bridge this gap and this pricing disparity for the community.
What is going to be an acceptable solution to you from Stop and Shop?
We're not asking Stop and Shop to change their prices or raise them in Dedham or lower them that much in Jamaica Plain. We're just asking for a more equitable platform for Jamaica Plain Stop and Shop and Dedham Stop and Shop, and even hopefully all of their locations to be a little bit more equal and fair for all of their shoppers.
You know, we're getting some text messages from people who talk about, and I'm sure you've heard this too, but I'll put it to you, saying that, this is Dave from Shrewsbury, grocery store chains are not consistent across locations except for advertised sales. The pricing is based on the competition in and around the same location. So for a supermarket in a neighborhood where there are no other supermarkets, only convenience stores, the supermarket can charge whatever they want, and they do, which gets to sort of the idea of food deserts, you know, and that's what he's arguing. So what do either of you say to Dave from Shrewsbury?
How about you go?
So I think that could be a reason why Stop and Shop prices their food this way, but it doesn't have to be that way, especially in a low-income neighborhood where money isn't just something that grows on trees. Even if there are no competitors and there is a food desert, like you say, it should be an opportunity for Stop and Shop to be more equitable and a little bit kinder to these communities.
Yeah, it's kind of a double whammy in a way, that argument. It seems to me you're saying, well, because there aren't any other places, we're going to screw these people because they have no place else to go but here. I don't mean to put words in or say things about Stop and Shop, but it does look like that's
what it looks like.
Happening.
What are Stop and Shop's earnings?
They make $15 billion a year.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing we found out in our research is that their parent company, Ahold Delhaize, they make over $1 billion a year in selling what the information that they get from shoppers. They are tracking everyone with a Stop and Shop card, and if you have the Stop and Shop app, they offer you all these coupons, and they say, if you allow us to track you. So they'll track you through Bluetooth. They'll know what other stores you're going to. And then they're able to sell this information to consumer goods entities. And they're on par to make over $1 billion. And they say they want to pump that back into lowering prices for their consumers. So that's one thing we may need to ask the CEO when we meet with them.
Yeah, Derek, I'm wondering from you if I'll ask you the same question I asked Eunice. What would be an acceptable solution, given what you just from Stop and Shop, given what you just shared, that your family has changed their habits around this?
For me, a possible solution that I would really like to see from them is that because it's understandable that they can't change everything. They cannot change their 400 stores across the thing, but that doesn't mean they cannot make a small change. Because even a small change in a community like Jamaica Plain, it's still a big change. Because the smallest changes are what actually cause the biggest changes and cause actual change in a community. So even if they do one small thing, it can still create an outburst or create a spark in the community, and then it can make other stores see this, and then other stores will do it themselves.
So I wonder, you're both 15 years old. This has been quite a learning experience about capitalist America. I mean, do you see this influencing your future career choices or what you might want to do with your, I mean, you'd go be a private investigator or an attorney or something like that. What do you think?
Well, definitely this media experience has helped me a lot because I've always thought that I wanted to be a news anchor.
There you go.
And,
there you go.
This definitely has helped, and it's been really fun seeing like the behind the scenes of what you see on TV.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that this has just encouraged me more to take that path.
How about you, Derek?
Well, me, it's not so much because, like, I want to be a history teacher when I
graduate. You do?
Yes.
Good for you.
I want to do that when I grow up and everything because, well, I love history. That's one of my favorite things. But if I could say, like, something that I'm learning from this that could help me would definitely be, like, background work, a lot of, like, work surrounding, like, investigating this, making sure you got the facts right. So something along the lines of that.
Ken, thinking back to the other students who were looking at the practices of TD Garden, how did that change them? How did that change them to do this analysis, to get the attention, and then have victory?
Yeah, they all, I'm still in touch with a lot of them. They all graduated from college. They all refer to it as a major impact in their lives. And it's interesting because most of these youth had not heard about TD Garden because they were in elementary school at most when that was happening 6-7 years ago. And so, but at one point Eunice did say to me, she said, I heard something about TD Garden when we first started doing the research. She goes, do you think this issue is going to be similar to that? And I said, you can never predict these things, but maybe. And so she almost kind of called it.
Because she has great journalistic instincts.
Yeah.
That's why she called it.
Well, it's very interesting. There will be some crisis, and big corporations will say, well, we're not going to donate to this anymore, or we're going to, I mean, the classic example has been in Pride Month where places like Target that were very pro-Pride stuff, and the LGBT community, they got a little pushback, and suddenly they pulled these things from their shelves, and Starbucks was criticized and other places. So it's interesting how corporations will do something when the heat is on, and then when the heat's off, they'll revert to what they were doing before. So good for you. I'm so glad to talk to all three of you. And I read the story in the Globe. I should give credit to the reporter, Tiana Woodard, who wrote the piece for the Globe. I read the story and I thought, good for these kids to go after Stop and Shop. And I hope you do get a very equitable solution from them and a great lesson to learn at a young age. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You have fabulous careers ahead of you, no doubt. We have been speaking with two of the teenagers who exposed price disparities at Stop and Shop, Eunice Yo-Yo and Derek Medina, as well as Ken Tangvit. He's Senior Manager of Organizing and Engagement for the Hyde Square Task Force. Thank you again for joining us today. After a quick break, it's still in the 60s outside, but some of us are ready and willing to freeze our cheeks for that trip to the beach. Are you among them? We'll open.
Washington rolls out the red carpet for India's prime minister. But is the leader of the world's biggest democracy someone the U.S. can trust? Also on the roundup, President Biden's use of the D word sinks hope of better relations with China, and President Putin is irked by some home truths delivered by a visiting high-level delegation from Africa.
This afternoon at 2, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and the Children's Trust, managers of Safe.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jared Bowen, Executive Arts Editor here at GBH, is in for Jim Browdy. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. And by the way, just to repeat, the library staff knows that the pigeon is here, so they're going to take care of it. And we can all be grateful.
By take care of it, we mean in a very good way.
There it is.
Not
there
take
it
care
is,
of it.
right over my head. You just missed me.
It's got a pretty big wingspan, actually.
No, it's like Michael Phelps, those long arms. Anyway, you would not know it looking out the window. It has just reached the 70s, and it is partly sunny out, but it is technically summer in New England, even though June has been kind of a wash in terms of weather. We passed the solstice on Wednesday. The kids are out of school. July 4th weekend is around the corner. But we're not letting another crummy weather day spoil our excitement for the beach. And we'll hope you join us the next minutes or so to talk about beaches around here, where you love to go to swim, how you get there, what you love about the beaches you go to, where you park, and the whole host of debates around beach etiquette, like, for instance, music at the beach. Do you bring a big sound system so you can torture the people next to you who hate your music? Or how about tops at the beach? There's a big fly over here too. I'm just surrounded by
all
animals
manner
here.
of wildlife.
Now, Nantucket, now has a topless beach.
For men and women.
For men and women, that's correct. So what do you make of the shrinking public access to beaches? We've talked to Chris Burrell a lot about this, that there's no place to park at beaches, and you have to be a resident at some of these beaches, and you have to, some beaches you can't stop at all if you're walking by the beachfront and someone owns the property behind. They're saying, even though there's supposedly the water line issue and you're supposed to be able to walk up to the water line, sometimes you can't, and you get accosted just for walking down the beach, never mind trying to stop there and play a game of frisbee or something like that. In Gloucester's having this non-resident beach parking issue up there in Gloucester. They're trying to work it out up there. And when the 4th of July rolls around, a current forecast. We already have the current forecast for the 4th of July. It's going to be 70s and rainy on the 4th of July. Oh, that's terrible.
True? Is that really true?
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that. That's really ruined my day. Anyway, but what does the beach mean to you? Where are you going to the beach? How ticked off are you about not being able to park at the beach, not being able to walk on the beach behind certain really wealthy pieces of property? And the one that really bothers me, I must admit, I can't stand it when people play music next to me on the beach, because I don't like the music most of the time and it ruins my day, and then I have to move someplace else. And then somebody comes down and sits next to you, and you get everything arranged, the chairs, the umbrella, the whole thing. You don't want to have to keep moving around the beach.
Is there any music that's acceptable to you?
Well, it's kind of like, why don't you just wear your earbuds? Why don't you play your music and you can hear them and not subject it to everybody else? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, 877-301-8970 is the number to call or text. If you have favorite beaches for kids, beaches for surfing, beaches that allow you to bring dogs in the summertime, and beaches where you can park. Do you have a favorite beach?
Well, no, because I'm more of a lake person, and you know what happens when you're a lake person? You don't have all of these issues.
That's right. You go to New Hampshire.
You don't have people streaming up to your lake.
Yep.
You don't have people trying to negotiate sand by your lake. You just kind of all putter around and enjoy your lake.
Well, lakes are very nice, but I also think that, our weather forecaster here, our resident meteorologist says, the weather.com says cloudy with occasional showers and high around 80 on the 4th of July. Wow.
But
we hope that's wrong.
Cranes Beach and Singing Beach, they're both quite lovely.
They are quite
and
lovely.
Nice sand.
Yep. And there's a lot of beautiful beaches down the Cape. Some of them are shrinking. The beaches where I grew up are shrinking down the Westport Way. The beaches between Fall River and New Bedford, Horseneck Beach is shrinking. It's really sad. And the sand dunes are not what they used to be. But there's some beautiful beaches down the Cape. Craigville Beach is a beautiful beach down the Cape. But you got to get there really early in the morning to park there, or otherwise you have to ride your bike. Anyway, 877-301-8970. Now, where are you about the music on the beach? I bet you don't like it. You're not telling me the truth.
About the music on the beach?
Yeah, you don't like to have somebody coming over with their sound system.
No, I don't think it bothers me. When you're out on the beach, isn't that part of it? It's
it's not.
You smell smells,
like
you smell sunscreen, you smell burgers, you hear music.
It's like secondhand smoke.
You get boinked on the head by somebody bouncing a ball.
Well, that's true, and the kids shake their towels and they get sand all over you, and that's a problem. But I think you're imposing on somebody else's space. That's why I don't like music.
With music.
It wafts. You know what I mean? It wafts into your space. Bob from Worcester, what do you think?
Hi, Bob.
Are you looking for
Bob from Worcester? Is that you, Bob?
Well, this is Paul from Worcester.
Oh, Paul from Worcester. Okay, close
Oh, it's
enough.
Paul.
Hi,
Hi, Paul.
Oh, Paul. Hi,
Oh,
Paul.
hi.
That Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well. I love all my presents.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.
I thought you were going to be talking more about the weather, but I can go with beach. I agree with Jared. I'm more of a lake person, but I also agree with you, Marjorie, about the, which is why I don't go to the beach very often, is because I don't want to be with a whole bunch of people living whatever fun and party they're having when I'm trying to have my own little fun and party.
That's right. That's the problem. You don't want to be imposed on by the people next to you. So you're not. So you just go to the lake.
Well, I prefer lakes over beaches, but mostly because of the reasons that Jared mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just laying there baking in the sun is not my idea of a good time.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Paul, thank you very much for the call. We have to watch out for the lakes, though, because they're getting cyanobacteria in the lakes, because people are fertilizing their lawns
But
too
not
close to
all
the
the
water.
lakes.
Not all the lakes.
And you have loons on lakes?
We have loons on lakes, and they also have septic systems which are not absorbing everything they should absorb to keep them out of the
That's
lake.
all right. You can drive all the people away from the lakes. That's totally fine. You can have them go to the beach with you and play their music.
Maybe in New Hampshire,
you kids get off my sand. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, well, there's part of that. They have cyanobacteria on Cape Cod. I don't know. Do they not have it in New Hampshire?
No.
Well, la-di-da. Good for you. James from Falmouth. You're from the Cape with the cyanobacteria and the crowded beaches. What do you think?
Hi, James.
Well, you just painted such a beautiful picture of my town. I don't know how I could top that.
That's right. Well, keep everybody off the Bourne Bridge, James. You should be thanking me.
There you go. There you go. No, I'm very fortunate to live within walking distance to Old Silver Beach, which is my absolute favorite beach to go to. It's beautiful all year round. The thing that's a little bit challenging, though, we were just talking about crowds. If you're not there in time, the car queue will go what seems like a mile down. And I just wish that beaches in Massachusetts, more largely adopted a way to either reserve your parking or to know what the parking was looking like. Because I feel so bad when people have to line up their cars for what seems like hours at a time just to try to get in. And, I mean, for those people that are commuting over an hour, that's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Well, they've been doing that on Gloucester. I think in Gloucester, right up in the North Shore, they've transitioned to reserve your space, so you know that you're going to get there. And I think it's been working successfully. It cuts down on traffic, and you have to make other arrangements if you can't drive there.
Yeah, that is a good one. That is a good one. And I think that some people, as you know, James, are making lots of money by renting out their front lawns and their garages to people to park their cars in. Do you do that?
I'm not that close, but I see plenty of houses around the place that do that. I'm sure that that's what's paying for their renovations this year.
Exactly. So exactly. James, thank you for the call. 877-301-8970. What do you think about the topless beach in Nantucket?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Why not?
I guess it's fine.
You guess it's fine? You're not sure?
Well, I'm not going to the topless beach, so I don't have to worry about it. But
well, I think all the beaches are topless now. It's just up to you to decide whether or not you want to have a top.
For women?
Yes.
They are?
I believe that they're all topless.
They're all topless? I thought you could
in Nantucket?
In Nantucket.
Yeah, no. I just meant Nantucket.
I don't think you can go to Carson Beach in Boston with no top on.
Not yet.
Not yet. That could be coming.
They haven't tried. I go to Carson Beach without my top on, but you can't.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely correct. Jackie and Brewster, what do you think?
Hi. I'm calling because I live on the Cape, and I love the beach. I love the crowds. I even love the music on the beaches. And I'm actually calling because I have a small bone to pick with you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You talk a lot about the parking situation and how there's pushback against, the unavailability of parking and resident-only parking. But on the flip side, when I try to drive into Boston for some kind of an appointment or an event, I'll drive around for, hours looking for a parking space that if I do find one, it's either incredibly expensive or I get stuck in this area of resident-only parking.
Right.
So I think that, there's this perception that homeowners on the Cape are being greedy by not sharing their space for parking, but in all honesty, it's just a limited resource. And
well, Jackie, here's
yeah.
what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to park your car in Quincy and get on the red line and hope you make it into Boston within 2 or 3 hours and the train does not go 10 miles an hour. Or, I mean, you're right about parking in Boston. There is no place to park in Boston. What's it, $40 now for a garage?
Oh, at least.
Yeah, at least during the day. So you're absolutely right, but that's what we're supposed to be doing now, right? We're supposed to be using public transportation, but the problem is nobody wants to use public transportation because it's a iffy proposition, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'm not saying that I have a solution to this issue. I'm just drawing the parallel. And, I actually, I love the busyness of Cape Cod in the summer. And, sometimes it's even worth it to fight for the parking spot down at the beach just so you get to enjoy it.
Okay, so you're in
that's my
Brewster.
thought.
Where do you go to the beach in Brewster?
I go to Paynes Creek or Crosby Beach.
Yeah.
They're all pretty close to my house.
Yeah.
And if I do go and I'm just going by myself without my kids, I'll ride my bike there.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Jackie. That's the thing. You could ride your bike, but you got to lug all, you can't ride your bike and you got to lug all your stuff, right?
How much stuff do you need?
Well, you need a beach chair, you need beach towels, you need your beach cooler. People aren't supposed to drink on the beach, but you know what they do. They pretend they're drinking out of, they have these thermoses and they pretend that they're full of coffee, but of course they're full of cocktails, but no one really bothers them too much. But you have too much stuff to lug. I think that's the problem. Especially if you've got, a family, right? You get down there and lug up all the chairs. Amy from Rockport, thank you for calling.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Marjorie. Hi. I just wanted to call and agree with you, Marjorie, that music on the beach is a total bummer.
That's right.
I go to the beach to listen to the ocean, to enjoy the sounds of nature, and not people's loud music.
Absolutely.
I am fortunate to live in Rockport, where there are beaches that you can escape to that are quiet. So I'm very lucky, and I know that.
I'm absolutely with you, Amy. It's kind of like secondhand smoke. People used to complain about secondhand smoke because it comes into your spot. And the same thing with the music. I mean, I'm getting a lot of emails about this. Amy, thank you for the call.
I see that.
I agree with Marjorie. I don't want to be subjected to anybody else's entertainment tastes, right?
Yeah,
you know what
Gabriel
I mean?
in Providence says playing music when others can hear it without everyone's consent is audio assault. Why does any one person get to decide what everyone else listens to? Earbuds all the way, Marjorie.
That's right. And God invented headphones for a reason. You're supposed to wear them on the beach. I guess that means I should show up on the beach with my headphones. I don't want to sit on the beach with headphones on. Would you want to do that? Go to the beach. Here's a good one. Go to the beach after 3 o'clock. It's by far the best time to be there. That is true. In the late afternoon, you can see the sunset.
And then the mosquitoes come in and the other flies. That's the problem with beaches. You have to decide, okay, when can I go and those little green fly gnat things are there or not there? And then when are the black flies there? And then when are the other flies? I need the fly calendar before I can even go to the beach because you inherently run into all of them.
We're getting a lot of risque texts about topless
toplessness.
beaches. Yes, but I'm not going to read those, Jared. I'm trying to keep this a family show. Scott in Arlington, thank you for calling.
Hi, Scott.
Hi there. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, great. So I am in agreement with you. No music at the beach. But the beach that I like to go to is Walden Pond, and Walden Pond is just like a magical experience. And you don't have the waves crashing. You don't really have the wind blowing. So there's nothing really else to mask it up. And I just love the peacefulness of going to Walden.
Didn't I hear stories, though, about how Walden was getting overrun, Scott? That people were just going there in droves, and it was the same thing, no place to park.
Scott, Marjorie's trying to tear down our lakes and ponds. That's what this is all about. Don't fall victim.
I was contemplating not letting the word out on Walden, but I love it so much.
Yeah.
But actually, they are very strict on the parking, and one of the great things actually is they update their Twitter website very, very frequently. So if the parking is closed, they update it right away, and you can see when it's open. And there's definitely trends of, if you're trying to get there at like 10:30, you're probably not going to get a parking spot. But if you go in there bright and early, you'll definitely get a parking spot.
Isn't there a clothing optional thing with Walden Pond, or am I just making that up? Or do people just do that because they think it's tied to thorough?
That's only true with my toddler. I have not seen anyone else go sloping down.
Okay, Scott, thank you for the call. Walden Pond is very beautiful. You know, Peggy from Saugus is reminding us that maybe you don't like Florida because of this Ron DeSantis and all his crackdowns on everybody's freedoms, but the beaches are accessible, she says, even in front of the mansions.
You know,
and we've talked a lot about that with Chris Burrell, who did a study. He's from the investigative team here at GBH, who did a study on not being able to sit on beaches in front of wealthy homes like on Cape Cod.
and I believe the same is in California, that there is no limiting access in front of any space, whether it's in Malibu or all the way down the coast or up the coast.
Yeah.
That all the beaches, I think I have that correct, that all the beaches are open.
And I don't see any action on that in Massachusetts at all, do you? I mean, you know who used to crusade for this? The former state Senate President, Bill Bulger. This is one of his big things, to open up access to the beaches. And that was like 20 or 30 years ago. We seemed to make absolutely no progress. He was the most powerful person in the state at the time and got nowhere.
What if somebody brings their boombox and plays Boston Public Radio really loudly at the beach? Is that okay?
No, I think I don't want to hear it when I'm on vacation. You know what I mean?
But if somebody's doing it right now at the beach and they're just listening to you and to me, is that okay?
I'm a purist about this.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to hear anybody's radio, whether it's classical music, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's hip hop.
Even if they're having a lot of fun?
Talk, radio. No, I mean, you know what we used to do when we were kids?
Even if it's a net funicello and they're just dancing and having fun?
That is true. Those are the Bobby Darin and Net Funicello movies, Sandra Dee, those movies where they were like teens on the beach.
Yeah.
But what we used to do when we were kids, we'd go to the sand dunes. That's where you went to play your music in the sand dune.
That is not what you were doing in the sand dunes.
Well, you were doing that and other things. You were playing the soft, sexy songs in the sand dunes and hope that nobody stopped by to investigate. Sophie from Boston, thank you for calling.
Hi, I'm also someone who prefers to not be listening to other people's music when I'm on the beach. But instead of thinking of it as audio assault when they do and being really upset about how it's impacting me, I kind of am like, okay, well, this is a public beach and they're having a good time. And if it bothers me, I can always politely ask them to turn it down. And every time I've politely asked someone to turn down their music, they immediately are like, oh yeah, sorry. So sorry about that. So I'm just wondering why we don't just say, oh, it's a public space, so it's not going to be exactly how I want it, because it's not a space designed for me.
Sophie, you're so mature.
It's just so much more articulate than I was trying to communicate that, but that's essentially what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, okay, that's a very good point. I should be a better citizen, Sophie.
Better neighbor.
Better neighbor, more tolerant of people on the beach, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not, and that's how it is. Somebody just said you can park in the post office square garage at $9 on Friday through Sunday. Wow, I didn't know about that.
For the weekends, and there are some garages that are less expensive, depending on the day, and not all of the garages in the city. I don't think the Boston Common garage is $40.
Well, we were talking yesterday about the urban doom loop, and I think if we want to do something about the urban doom loop in the city of Boston, we might lower the prices in the garages that are in the urban doom loop. We're not the doom loop yet, but we're getting close to downtown. I mean, people are not back downtown. The tailors and the little corner stores and the dry cleaners and all that, they've had to shut down. So maybe it didn't cost you so much money to park there, where people would come from outside.
Or you can bring your life raft and hop on the T and come into town.
That's right.
And you don't have to pay that much. You can pay $2 and whatever it is.
Well, we're hoping that before I'm dead, they're going to fix the T. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Don in the car, what do you think?
Yes, my favorite beach definitely is the South Beach down in Martha's Vineyard. Never, ever any problems. The water's beautiful.
Yeah.
No crazy kids running around, playing with a football or a frisbee. And you're right about the radio. No, that's unbearable if somebody took their radio up too loud.
So what is it's called South Beach?
Yeah.
Is it kind of a hidden? Is it kind of a? Oh, we're out of time. We're out of time. Sorry, I lost time. You know why? Because Jim isn't here to tell me we're out of time. He tells me this every week, and I'm always behind time. Jared, you fell down on the job. You should have told me we're out of time.
Marjorie, we're out of time.
We're out of time. Okay, Jared. Go ahead.
So thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Jamie, stop it. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. And in the same feed as the full show podcast, check out our new Best of Boston Public Radio edition. So, tune in Monday. Jim is back from his vacation. No, I can't get through this. I've been swallowed.
Slithering around Cambridge, that's what he's doing. We'll be joined on Monday morning political panel, former Massachusetts Governor Jane Swift. You recovered?
I am.
Okay,
Yep.
Go ahead.
She's a former Massachusetts State Senator, Governor now, and also former Massachusetts State Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, plus MIT economist John Gruber, food policy analyst Corby Kummer, and Michael Curry of the NAACP and the Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, plus GBH News' fabulous
executive arts editor.
That would be me.
That would be you, Jared. You are
I'll be here on
fabulous.
Monday.
Okay.
Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Connolly, Nicole Garcia, and Hannah Loss. Our engineer is John LeClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL team here today, Cullen Cockrell and Evelyn Brito, and the pigeon who has been flying around keeping us super entertained.
That's right.
At classicalwcrb.org. It's so hard to talk over this music. I know how much you're enjoying it right now, but the hour is just flying by, and that means our time with Paradisum, Serene Sacred Songs, is about to come to a close. Enjoy the music from this hour forever with this 2-CD collection, Paradisum, Serene Sacred Songs. Donate $10 a month, but give now. classicalwcrb.org or call 888-995-9272.